Rector of Universitas Andalas, who represented by Vice Rector 4, Director of the Graduate Program, Universitas Andalas, professors, invited speakers from USA, Nepal, Pakistan, and Netherlands, all participants from UK, Vietnam, Thailand, Singapore, Philippines, Malaysia, Japan, India, and Indonesia. Ladies and gentlemen, to start our event, let's hear the national anthem, Indonesia Raya.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we would like to invite the head of organizing committee to deliver her remarks. Please welcome Mrs. Yurlita, PhD.
Good morning, everyone, and Honorable Rector of Universitas Andalas, represented by Vice Rector for Partnership and Planning Affairs, Professor Pascasarjana, and Honorable keynote speakers, Dr. Halawi from General Director of Housing, Ministry of Public Works, and then Professor Juan Puivin, Regional Coordinator for ESC Asia, and of course to all our distinguished guests and participants. On behalf of the organizing committee, let me welcome you and express my sincere gratitude for your participation in the fourth International Interdisciplinary Conference on Green Development in Tropical Regions. This conference is organized by the Graduate Program Universitas Andalas in collaboration with our 10 partner institutions, Anjian University, Adhikafi Nanaya University, Dwi Jendra University, Presidency University, and building universities in leading disaster resilience build project, International Islamic University Malaysia, Mar Athanasius College India, Universitas Dharma Andalas Indonesia, The Hood Institute, and Niagara University. The graduate program of Universitas Andalas has sparked a discussion concerning various aspects of green development, particularly in tropical regions. And one of such forums is the annual International Conference on Green Development in Tropical Regions. At the first, HCGDTR was held in 2015, and the second HCGDTR was carried out in India in 2017 with our partner organization, Adhikafi Nanaya University, and the third HCGDTR was held in collaboration with Sustain in 2019 here in Padang. this 2020 conference is the fourth ICGDTR with a specific emphasis on using an interdisciplinary approach. Thus, we name it the fourth International Interdisciplinary Conference on Green Development in Tropical Regions. And the theme of our virtual conference is Governance Challenge of Green Development in Tropical Asia, where the main objective is of this international conference is to enhance and discourse and discussion on various aspects of green development in tropical regions, especially the issue of governance challenges of green development in tropical regions. And also I would like to take this opportunity to convey my great appreciation to all parties supporting this event. Special thanks goes to our respective keynote speakers, for the Dr. Halawi, and General Director of Housing and Ministry of Public Works, and Professor Juan Pulhin from the University of the Philippines, Los Baños. And our deep appreciation also goes to the 25 invited speakers from various institutions around the globe. About 167 papers will be presented orally by participants from various countries like Indonesia, India, Japan, Malaysia, Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, UK, and Vietnam. In addition, there are also 3 online pre-conference workshops conducted as the side event of this conference. Workshop on how to publish a paper in international journal, and workshop on social choice theory, and finally a workshop on mastering structural equation modeling with Smart PLS. And we also expect to provide the forums for sharing and knowledge along the numerous opportunities for networking. The insight and hard work of the committee has made this conference possible. Each member of the committee has made a significant contribution toward the success of this event, and we thank everyone involved for their valuable support. And finally, on behalf of the Conference Advisory Board and Organizing Committee, I would like to express our sincere thanks and appreciation to Director Universitas Andalas, all participants, college, keynote speakers, as well as partnering institutions for your indispensable support to this event. Thank you, and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Ladies and gentlemen, our next agenda, speech from Director of the Graduate Program, Universitas Andalas. Please welcome Professor Dr. Rersors Nushiran Effendi.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning to you, to all of you. The Honorable Rector of the Andalas University, keynote speakers, Professor Juan Pulhin from the University of the Philippines, Dr. Insinyur Basuki Hadi Mulyono, MSc, Minister of Public Works and Housing, and today is represented by Dr. Halawi, Directorate General of Housing, Ministry of Public Works and Housing in Indonesia. All distinguished invited speakers, distinguished participants, and all members of the community of the conference. It is a great honor for me as a director to warmly welcome you to the 4th International Interdisciplinary Conference on Green Development in Tropical Regions. This conference is hosted by the Postgraduate Program of Andalas University, West Sumatra, Indonesia. Ladies and gentlemen, speakers and participants, today and tomorrow are special days for the postgraduate program of Andalas University. On these days, we are holding an online international conference amidst the COVID-19 pandemic, which unfortunately has not been contained even to this day. Our attendance at this conference indicates our commitment towards dialogues and seeking solutions in the never-ending effort to deal with the pandemic. Therefore, I appreciate and thank the speakers and conference participants for your attendance at this event. This conference is exceptional due to the fact that it has attracted the attention of 167 participants from 9 countries. We welcome from India 39 people, Japan 1 person, Malaysia 6 people, Philippines 1 person, Singapore 1 person, Thailand 1 person, United Kingdom 3 people, Vietnam 13 people, and then from the host nation, Indonesia 102 people. In addition to that, the committee has invited 25 speakers from various institutions and countries, namely from the USA, the Netherlands, Pakistan, Malaysia, Thailand, Myanmar, Japan, India, and China. As the director of Andalas University's postgraduate program, and on behalf of Andalas University, I hereby declare my gratitude towards all our participating international speakers and participants. I consider the linkage between countries through today's online conference is evidence of the shared spirit and desire for greater and continued discussion. This conference is notable due to its diverse range of themes and topics, including 5 themes and 19 topics. These many areas of discussion indicate that the main theme of governance challenge of green development in tropical Asia is an important ongoing concern and strategic issue. I would like to extend my special thanks to our institutional partners who have supported this conference, namely International Islamic University Malaysia, Build Project, and Giang University from Vietnam, Presidency University, Adhikafi Nannaya University, and Mar Athanasius College from India, Niagara University, USA, and Universitas Dwi Jendra, Denpasar, Universitas Dharma Andalas Indonesia, and Hood Institute Indonesia. Finally, I congratulate all the attendees who are joining this conference. I hope that this conference will enable a fruitful exchange of ideas and build a network of friends among scientists around the world. Last but not least, I also express my appreciation and gratitude to all the committee members chaired by Mrs. Dr. Yuerlita, who has worked hard together with the team to make this international conference possible. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we would like to invite the Rector of Universitas Andalas to give the opening speech as well as opening our event officially. And in this occasion, it will be presented by Vice Rector 4 of Universitas Andalas. Please welcome Dr. Hafrizal Handra, MSOC SC.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good morning to all of you, our honorable speakers, invited speakers, partners, participants, and also the committee of the 4th Interdisciplinary International Conference on Green Development in Tropical Region, which is held by the graduate program of Universitas Andalas Padang. On behalf of the Rector, we welcome you all to this virtual conference. As the Vice Rector, I have been appointed by the Rector to provide a speech this morning, since the Rector cannot attend this meeting. He has a very personal reason for not coming this morning, since there is another occasion that he should also attend. On behalf of the Rector and the University, we appreciate this collaboration between the graduate program of Universitas Andalas and other parties, especially in the Asian region, which discussing different ideas related to green development and for organizing this conference. Thank you again for the graduate program led by Professor Nusirwan. As we know, tropical Asia is a region with a large population, rich biodiversity and high growth. Much of the economic growth in this area is supported by the exploitation of natural resources such as forest, land, and water. This area uses ecosystem services for the tourism sector to improve livelihood. Rural and urban development is still unbalanced, and the construction of buildings in urban areas sometimes harms agricultural land. Climate change and social injustice have also become the major problems, affecting agriculture, transportation, tourism, energy, industry, and of course the society. Some efforts are now done for a green development, which is a multidisciplinary effort that require more coordination to produce results. Green development has several challenges, especially at the governance level. I hope this conference will impact the future of green development in tropical Asia, of course, in Indonesia. So we would like to address our special thanks to our keynote speakers, two keynote speakers here. We saw Dr. Engineer Kalawi, MSc, the Director General of Housing, and also Professor Juan Pulin from the University of the Philippines, Los Banos. Pak Rector, send a great warm welcome to Pak Kalawi and say regard and say apology for not being able to welcome Pak Kalawi for this conference. And also we saw that we also like to thanks to all invited speakers and also partner organizations from several institutions and countries for participating in this conference. Finally, I would like to extend my warmest greeting to all researchers who are participating in this conference to share their experience and expertise. And last but not least, we would like to thank the organizing committee for their tremendous effort in successful organizing this conference. On behalf of the Rector of Andalas, Universitas Andalas, I officially open this international conference. I wish you all a very productive conference. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's watch together profile video of graduate program Universitas Andalas. Please enjoy the video.
Welcome to the graduate program Universitas Andalas, located in Padang, the capital city of West Sumatra, which is famous for its natural beauty and also known as the home of numerous national figures who significantly influenced the establishment and development of the nations. Since its establishment in 1984, the graduate program has gone through 6 periods of leaderships that have continuously improved the quality of education services to provide the greatest quality in education, thus making us the best choice to develop various scientific fields.
Andalas University postgraduate program builds regional, national, and international collaborations. Publications and research must be able to provide solutions to the problems of the community. We try to improve the quality of learning in the midst of disruptive communication technology. We are ready to include in the trajectory of internationalization of research products and results. Our tagline is multidisciplinary collaborations and solutions.
With a passion for improving the quality of the education process, we offer various facilities in a systematic and dynamic learning process.
Two reasons to study in postgraduate Andalas University. Firstly, it is an academic environment. A lot of students come from overseas and local to study in the campus. Secondly, there are professors and doctors who are experts in their field, also supporting staff to help students during their study in the campus. Come along to postgraduate Andalas University.
We offer PhD and master degree in multidisciplinary field of study. Our field of study have been well accredited. We employ qualified instructors, all of them holding PhD degree. Please join us postgraduate program Andalas University.
The graduate program of Universitas Andalas is committed to producing graduates who can compete at a national and international scale and contribute to the glory of the nation. Graduate program of Universitas Andalas realizes that distance is sometimes an obstacle for prospective students who want to develop their knowledge at the master and doctoral levels. Therefore, we have designed a blended learning-based education program that enables students to participate in education process wherever they are.
I'm very proud to be alumni graduate program Andalas University. I got a lot of experience, knowledge, and capacity building in my career and related to my professional activity. I would like to say thanks to all highly competent lecturers. Don't be hesitate to join graduate program Andalas University.
education for the glory of the nation. We develop research and innovative services involving lecturers and students that are expected to contribute to the solution of various community problems.
We are provided with the best facilities and of course, we promise the best services for students to finish study in time. We welcome students all over the world to reach the dream by studying at the postgraduate program Andalas University.
The graduate program of Universitas Andalas is always ready to collaborate with various institutions that also have a solid commitment to developing science and technology for the glory of the nation.
Ladies and gentlemen, please give applause to graduate program Universitas Andalas.
Ladies and gentlemen, we continue to the next agenda. Speech by Dr. Kalawi MSc from Directorate General of Housing, Ministry of Public Works and Housing, the Republic of Indonesia. And it will be led by our moderator. Please welcome our moderator, Professor Dr. Melinda Nur.
Good morning and greetings to all of you. Thanks to the organizer who allow me to deliver a keynote speaker in the session. Our distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 4th Interdisciplinary International Conference on Green Development in Tropical Region under the theme of Governance Challenges of Green Development in Tropical Asia. The keynote speech will be delivered by the Minister of Public Works and Housing of the Republic of Indonesia, which in this time will be presented by the Honorable Director General of Housing, Dr. Kalawi Abdul Hamid. Thanks to the Director who has taken the time to deliver a keynote of governance challenges on green development in tropical Asia. It may encourage participants well informed about the practices and challenges of green development to achieve sustainable development goals. Before the presentation, I will convey his biography as follows. Dr. Kalawi was born in Komalang, 22nd of December 1963. He holds a bachelor degree in Civil Engineering from Gajah Mada University, Master Degree in Construction Management, UTM Malaysia, Master of Management, Universitas Putra Malaysia, Putra Indonesia Padang, Doctor in Civil Engineering, Tarumanegara University. His current position is a Director General of Housing, Ministry of Public Works and Housing since 2017. Proudly present our keynote speaker, General Director of Housing, Dr. Kalawi. Please welcome.
Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi
wabarakatuh. Allow me to convey and apologize from the Minister of Public Works and Housing, Mr. Basuki Hadimulyono. Because there's no agenda cannot be applied. So, assign me to interesting. Okay. The Honorable Rector of Universitas Andalas, Professor Ilendri, Director of Graduate Program of Andalas University, Regional Coordinator ASG Asia, Board Advisory, Scientific Committee, and speakers, distinguished guests and participants, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning for all of you. First of all, let us express our gratitude to God Almighty as only with His blessings we can all present here in this most important occasions. I'm very honored to be invited on this occasion to deliver a keynote speech about governance challenge of green development in tropical Asia. On behalf of the Minister of Public Work and Housing, would like to my gratitude in appreciation to the graduate program of Andalas University for organizing this event. This event is a very important opportunity to share experience, innovation, and information towards mainstreaming the green development in Asia. I hope this conference also provides recommendation to the Ministry on Innovation and Strategy, accelerated green infrastructure implementation in Indonesia. Ladies and gentlemen, regard to the conference focus on governance challenge of green development in allow me to first mention about the urgency of green infrastructure development in Indonesia. First, development intensity, population potentially produce more carbon emission compared to other countries in the region in the future. Second, urbanization is growing rapidly, with currently about 52% of Indonesian population living in urban area. Predicted to reach up to 65% in 2025 and 70% maybe in 2035. And most of Indonesia cities situated in coastal region, which is vulnerable to sea level rise and natural disaster related to climate change, such as flood, storm, and drought. Infrastructure development clearly has important role to achieve sustainable development goal (SDGs), particularly Goal 11, sustainable cities and communities, and Goal 13, take urgent action to combat climate change and its impacts. Moreover, the infrastructure also closely related to four main sectors: energy, land use, transport, and building, to contribute to greenhouse gases emission. In brief, enhancing the infrastructure deliverability process has significant contribution to climate change actions. In the future, infrastructure development needs to be directed at first the creating local economic growth as part of the centralized concentration to overcome to the development gap between areas throughout Indonesia. Throughout Indonesia, this the second put forward social and human development by utilizing local materials and labor. So upgrading on a healthy environment, climate change readiness, and disaster mitigation. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, in the 2020 to 2024 in SPCMN, the strategic plan of the Ministry of Public Work and Housing, the strategy of infrastructure development has also put sustainable development in mind. One of the strategies is increasing the utilization of local material and tools in order to create added value to every infrastructure being built. This strategy will reduce our carbon footprint and contribute to climate actions. In regards to the urgency of green infrastructure development, the Ministry of Public Works and Housing, among another, has first initiated the Green City Development Program atau yang dikenal dengan P2KH. Second, encourage the use of waste to energy by processing it into refuse fuel RDR as an alternative to fossil fuel and a solution to reduce the pile of waste in the landfill. Third, conducted plastic asphalt as solution to our plastic waste problem. Fourth, constructed some buildings which have been awarded green building rating and or receive energy awards to in energy efficient buildings. Some of those are of office building or at Patimura, Legi Ponorogo and Temple Sengkang Market maybe, and Kelha Wiksa Praniti in Bandung. Ladies and gentlemen, last but not least, I would like to extend a special gratitude to Universitas Andalas, Professor Julian and friends, all of you, and its partnering organization for organizing in this important event. Yeah. Much appreciation is also addressed to all attendants for the participant and commitment to the sustainability of our built environment. I'm both honored and delighted to be with you today to participate in this conference. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Pak Dr. Kalawi, and at some notes on this, Director General has mentioned that sustainable development requires the construction of green infrastructure, especially to achieve sustainable development goals. Number 11, sustainable cities and communities, and the number 13, to combat climate change and its impact. It would be particularly relevant to the needs of other development sectors, such as energy, land use, transport, and building. Future development needs a green economy, putting social and humanism development to attain green development. In relation to the topic of our seminar, we realized that cross-sectoral development in tropical Asia region requires interdisciplinary in the concept and the practice as well. Neither one actor nor one discipline is more important than others, but has to put in a synergy. The aim is to maintain a balance of using natural resources for regional economy and the quality of social welfare increase. Such green development can only be reached when we put interdisciplinary thoughts into regional development and planning, in which the invited speakers and participants will discuss the topic comprehensively in plenary session. Now we have come to the end of this session. Many thanks to the Director General, Pak Dr. Kalawi. Thanks for the attention of all participants, and I apologize for the any shortcomings may have. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Ladies and gentlemen, please give applause for our keynote speaker and our moderator. Hopefully, what you have delivered could give knowledge for us.
The honorable ladies and gentlemen, before moving on to our next agenda, let's take a picture together. I would like to invite everyone to turn on the video cam. Okay, everyone, please hold on a minute. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Okay, once again. 1, 2, 3. Okay, it's done. Thank you very much.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we come to the plenary session 1 with the topic Governance Challenges on the Future of Asian Irrigation and Water Resources Management. And for this plenary 1, our session chair is Professor Dr. Rudi Febriamansyah, and our session host is Mrs. Yurlita, PhD. Please welcome our session host, Mrs. Yurlita, PhD.
I would like to welcome everyone again, and thank you for joining this session. This session will be our plenary 1 main session under the theme of Governance Challenges on the Future of Asian Irrigation and Water Resources Management. And then for this session, we have for about 6 speakers. And then Professor Rudi, he will lead the session, yeah? The discussion also, and also the presentation of all the presenters. Okay, so for that, I would like to hand it over this session to Professor Dr. Rudi Febriamansyah. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Ibu Dr. Yerlita. Can all of you hear my voice?
Yes, clear.
Yes. Thank you very much. Good morning and greeting to all of you, ladies and gentlemen, the participants of the Interdisciplinary Development in Tropical Regions. This is the third conference for us. I would like firstly thanks to the director of Graduate School, Andalas University, Professor Nusirwan Effendi, and also the organizer who already invited me to chair this very important panel session. And secondly, we would like also to thanks to seven distinguished panelists for this morning's session who have made themselves available to be with us to share their scientific understanding, findings, and their analysis about the governance challenge on the future of Asian irrigation and water resource management. Anyway, before we give those 7 speakers for this session to deliver their speech, please allow me to give a brief biodata of all the speakers for this morning session. The first, okay. The first speaker is Professor Ganesi Pakoti. He is a native Nepal, is currently serving as a young professor of Natural Resource Management and founder director of Ostrom Center for the Study of Natural Resource Governance at the Asian Institute of Technology, Bangkok, Thailand. He is also visiting professor at the Arizona State University, USA, teaching graduate level classes since 2015. Next. Next is our distinguished panel, Professor Helmi. He's one of our colleagues in Andalas University. He's well known as a researcher in irrigation and water resource management at Andalas University. He graduated from Way College, University of London in 1996. Next. Dr. Ramchandra Bastakoti is a senior planning, monitoring, and evaluation expert at the European Union Technical Corporation. Oh, sorry. Yeah. The Agriculture Development Strategy at Kathmandu. Next. Dr. Raja Ullah is our colleague, is a friend of Professor Yonariza, our Vice Director at the graduate school. Is serving the Institute of Agricultural and Resource Economic at the University of Agriculture, Faisalabad, Pakistan, as assistant professor. Yeah, he is one of our very important editor of a lot of books that we produce in collaboration with Andalas University as well. Yeah, redefining diversity and dynamic of natural resource management Indonesia, published by Elsevier, USA. Next. Professor Viswanathan. Yeah. He's professor at Department of Management at Vidyapitham, Kochi, India. Next. Finish? Oh. Dr. Professor Pampa Mukherjee is currently Professor of Political Science at Punjab University, Chandigarh. He's staying in India. She got degree from India, first degree, and then PhD from Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi. Next. Finish, yeah. Okay. Thank you very much for technical announcement of the biodata of the speaker. So, let me first invite Professor according to the schedule. Yeah. We invite Professor Dr. Ganesi Pakoti. Yes, you are.
I'm here. Can I share the screen?
Yes, Professor.
Okay.
So for the all speaker, because we have a time, maybe about 3 hours for 7 presentation. So we hope you can limit your presentation for 15 minutes. Yeah. So hopefully we can have a discussion for 1 hour all in all. Please, Professor.
Thank you. Okay. campaign with full scale government. Oh. I'm soon पाकिस्तान को बुलाया था कि उधर था मलाई प्लीज हेल्प Excuse me, I'm having some problem. I'll come to you. के हो चाहिए यसको सुरुमा जाना Okay, thank you very much for allowing us to organize a panel on the governance challenge in the future of the Asian irrigation and water resources. And as you mentioned already, Parude, that we have 7 papers which will be all the panelists will be discussing from the individual country. Helmi for Indonesia, Chuthatip and Sukit will be discussing from Thailand. Ramchandra will be discussing from Nepal. P.K. Viswanathan and Pampa Mukherjee from India, from both economic policy and the equitable issue. And also we'll have Rajaullah and Farhad Julfikar will talk about the Pakistan irrigation systems and their management problem. What I have done is I have tried to synthesize some of the issues and then what type of framework we use in order to come up with. So I have synthesized all these 5 countries, case studies. So I'll go over it quickly, and then individual details will be presented these countries. So can you hear me? Or what is the situation? Rudy, please.
Yeah, we can hear you clearly.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you very much.
We can hear you.
Okay, that's good. So as a background, majority of the governance and academics are searching for policy recommendations to mitigate the trend of natural resource degradation. So they do so promotion of stakeholder capacity and bottom up policy formulation process. The importance of the informed policy guidance, sustainable governance and management of CPR in general, water resource in particular have been recognized due to conflicting and competing demand and usage of these resources in economic context in Asia. Several issues related to governance and management need to be addressed that can directly ongoing policy of decentralization and poverty reduction measures in Asia. So previous research have identified several anomalies and explained these in terms of the better management designs for water resource for several Asian countries, but some issues failure to comprehend and social ecological system as coupled system adapts self-organization are co-evolutionary in time. The information often tend to be fragmented and scattered, resulting decision making incomplete. And then our earlier work have identified these issues as you might have recognized these books. Most of these books we have co-authored and co-edited with Professor Elinor Ostrom, Naval Laureate Elinor Ostrom. We started with our study improving irrigation governance and management in Nepal, and then tried to expand that back into the Asian irrigation in transition, and then our network has been associated around these issues on governance and management improvement in irrigation. So we have all these partner scholars working further to advance the work that was initiated by novel Eleanor Strong. And then there are several issues that effort to come up with effective governance. I'm not going to, put each question in detail, but we have many issues like dual goal of sustainable water resource and judicious economic growth. Both equity versus economic development. Also, what are the impact of the decentralization of the water resource in terms of the resource conditions, resource users, and infrastructure itself. And then also the sustainability of the water resource system, how can it be achieved under diverse disturbance like climate change, and then competing water needs, and then the global market force, is another devil that we have to deal with. And then multiple methods of information gathering, and then how can you make that, put that in integrated manner that we are able to convince the policymaker that the issue of the water resource governance is important, is very important. Also, what are the effective policy intervention for polycentric governance of water resource that are environmentally sustainable and socially balanced. So these issues are very important agenda for our collaborative work, Asia on the water resource governance. And we have used international institutional analysis and development framework. I think all of you know about that. I'm not going to discuss in detail, but at least I can say that this is the framework that can be applied in several settings and several ecological conditions and different countries, and still we can come up with some of the context-specific special findings from individual case studies, and then we can generalize them to come at the general policy framework at the national and international level. And a recent study from Asian irrigation shows that biophysical context, they influence the policy arena, as well as external disturbance such as natural events, including climatic variability, have forced the farmers to develop and adapt a different coping strategy. So, we think that farmers need help, and then policy people try to make the policy, but the farmers are much more smarter, and they have already developed their adaptation strategies, and they say your policy should be this, not you come up with this dictation, please. And there is also increase in the overall capacity of the irrigation system, both due to rehabilitation of FMIS and then construction of the new systems. We have seen that. There is also the pattern of the joint management, the PPP model in the form of the irrigation management transfer and participatory irrigation management. These are the two buzzwords of the mega donor, mega funding financial agency, ADB, and World Bank. And there are market pressure. They have positive effects on the cropping intensity, multiple cropping, dry season commercial vegetable production, but also have resulted in water shortages during the scarcity seasons and increase in the conflict among the users. And major problem, we have seen this out migration to the cities, labor shortage, which has changed the resource users' characteristics, less collective action to manage the resource and public infrastructure, and that is very big problem. And then irrigation, farmer irrigators are trying to, go into the broader water management strategy and then, try to manage irrigation fit within the multi-sectoral water development and management strategy. And water users associations are responsible for management and deal with the external disturbance. And then we can see that water users association in farmer managed irrigation system have high degree of autonomy, therefore better performance, and then they are capable of generating quick response from users to deal with the external disturbances, as I just mentioned earlier. If we look at the operational level rules, they establish operational level action, specify rights and responsibility to the users. So FMIS, or the Farmer Managed Irrigation System, make and enforce rules by users, better monitoring by local monitor, but agency impose the rules and administered by external people, but not followed properly. And FMIS adopt alternative management strategy, as well as water users association suggest farmers for growing in reduced area, growing in a cluster or group, area sharing management system has come up. We have seen a lot of examples from Vietnam and Cambodia, a group area sharing and then getting into the global market competition. And we, as I said, that IID framework was one, and then we also follow Ostrom social ecological system framework, which are based on their 2004 and 2009 models, where there are 8 linkages between resource and resource users, over here water resource and farmers, resource users and public infrastructure provider, that is the irrigation department, then public infrastructure provider and public infrastructure itself, then infrastructure and resource dynamics, public infrastructure and resource users, and external forces on resource and infrastructure, as well as the external forces on the resource users and service providers. As you can see that these all these 1 to 8 social ecological system in terms of the framework and linkages. We followed it, and the result from these studies shows that I'm going to be very quick. External forces has affected the resource and public infrastructure, which has affected the water availability, and it has increased the vulnerability. As well as external forces have influenced the public infrastructure providers and resource users, and there are changes in rules and management. Again, in agency managed, users are willing not to cooperate. Agency is outside, farmers are inside, and then there is a, which is affected the capacity of the infrastructure to cope on the damages. But in FMIS, flexible rules and monitoring has helped to maintain the infrastructure. Market pressure has affected the resource dynamics and resource users. There is a competition for the water and conflict. AMIS focus on using groundwater shift in the biophysical context, so there is less collective action, and then the resources is being overexploited. Farmer managed irrigation system, there are conflict resolution arena, they manage conflict, and then they also have the adaptive learning to deal with the disturbance and adaptive capacity and maintain robustness of the irrigation system. So with this, a very brief summary of our finding from these five major countries, collaborating countries, I would like to conclude that there is a need for the polycentric governance. Watershed landscape use level outcomes relating to agriculture and other natural resources such as ecosystem service, climate smart agriculture, they have already been started and they must be re-emphasized. Multiple sources of authority and incentive to cope with the multi-sectoral coordination, state, community, and private sector PPP partnership, and tapping multiple sources of the investment, social protection program, addressing water resource flow, share of cost and benefit. These are very important issues that are common to all of our five participating countries for the current study in Asian setting. So, the final re-emphasis I would like to make is that for effective governance, institutions matter. And for that, diagnosis of the institutional arrangements are important in terms of identifying what exists, what is needed, thinking creatively, and what can be done to address institutional gap. We have to go beyond panacea. Two types of our, conventional wisdom has to be rethought about, and we should have the organic thinking, not the mechanistic. Engineering is the best. There should be the skilled craftsmanship, and then recognizing institutional investment as an important investment, and we as the researcher network would like to re-emphasize this point. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Prof. Ganesh Pakoti. It's very rich information that has been presented by Professor Ganesh. Yeah. It has mentioned previous works have been done so far by him and his team in regard to irrigation and water resource management. And yeah, at the last he give us some kind of like new thoughts of governance in irrigation and water resource management using socio-ecological frameworks, and then the need of polycentric governance. Yeah. And as been mentioned by Prof. Ganesh, this panel is a place where we can share all what's been done and been thinking by our experts in irrigation and water resources in Indonesia, India, Thailand, Pakistan, so we can discuss what will be the future of irrigation and water resource management. So since I didn't see Prof. Helmis here yet, maybe I would like to invite first Dr. Jutatif and Dr. Sukit from Thailand, yeah, to share first what is happening and what's been done, the share nanos and irrigation and water resource management in Thailand. Dr. Jutatif. I've seen your here in the participant list, but yeah, okay. Okay, your voice still mute maybe. Okay, please, it's time for you, Dr. Jutatif and Dr. Sukit. I think we cannot hear your voice yet. Anyone can hear the voice of Dr. Jutatif?
No. No.
Okay. Please check your microphone connection. Your PowerPoint is already appear here in the screen, but your voice is not coming up yet. You are mute now. Okay, that's mute again. Please unmute.
Okay, so
I heard the voice. Is this yours? From your computer? Dr. Yutati?
Dr. Jithatif, say hello.
Please speak so we can try to hear you. No, not coming yet. Do you think you need time to set your computer first and then we let the other speaker? What do you think?
Yeah, I think that will be a good idea.
Very good. Okay. Dr. Rams?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, I think I better to invite you first to make presentation about your
Yeah, sure.
issues in Nepal. Yeah? Okay,
So,
it's time for you.
shall I start?
Yes, you may start. Dr. Ram. Yes, the screen is there. You can just slideshow.
Can you see my screen?
Yeah. Yes. Good. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Respected session chair, panelists, and all the participants. I'm Ram Pastakoti, and I'm currently based in Nepal, working for European Union's Technical Cooperation Facility to roll out the agricultural development strategy in the federal context. So, our presentation today, it is jointly prepared by myself and Dr. Pascasarjana, who used to be my colleague working together at International Water Management Institute, and he is currently working as a principal with University Engineering and Science College under Pokhara University of Nepal. So I think Base also joining this session. So in today's presentation, matching with the core concern of our panel, particularly what kind of governance challenges the irrigation systems are facing in Nepal. We want to highlight some of the very recent changes that has happened in Nepal, very recent and very big changes that has happened in Nepal in the last 5 years. So we are talking about the federalization and changing irrigation management dynamics in Nepal. We have divided our presentation in five major parts. We want to briefly bring you to agriculture and irrigation in Nepal, and then we'll present on what theoretical framework we are trying to analyze these issues, and then for the sake of broader audience, we would like to introduce you to briefly about the federal the governance changes that has happened in Nepal, and how irrigation is what is the situation of irrigation in this context, and then we'll come to I think important part of our presentation, particularly looking on what are the changing dynamics, particularly that could have effect in management of irrigation system, and then we'll quickly highlight what are the implications we have observed so far. Just as a flag to the audience, this is a kind, you can consider this as a work in progress, but we are still trying to uh, uh, present our observation for last 5 years period. Uh, Nepal is still like very much agriculture dominant country, so agriculture is the key driver of the national economy and the overall prosperity of the country. Nepal's current uh, 15th periodic development plan also highlights the economic prosperity in the country could be achieved through for like transformation of agriculture through like commercialization, mechanization, and modernization. Agriculture contributes almost 1/3 of national gross domestic product and uh, employs and source of livelihood for still for the nearly 1/3 of the population. So this sector is really crucial sector for employment generation, poverty reduction, import substitution, and food and nutritional security, as well as in the maintaining some of the negative balance uh, in the international trade, particularly at least in the agriculture part. So realizing the importance of agriculture in the national economy, I think there have been a lot of efforts in the past also, but most recently, the government of Nepal has approved a 20-year-long agricultural development strategy covering the period of 2050 to 2035. This agricultural development strategy is the overall guiding framework for agricultural development in Nepal, which aims to transform our Nepalese society towards a more self-reliant, sustainable, competitive, inclusive agriculture sector, and to achieving that changes, driving the economic growth and job creation in the country. So the agricultural development strategic framework is based on 4 major outcomes. You can, if you look at the lower part of this figure, it aims to achieve improved governance, higher productivity, profitable commercialization, and competitiveness in agriculture. And the overall overarching objectives are to achieve food and nutrition security, poverty reduction, agriculture trade competitiveness, higher and more equitable income, and also ensuring farmers' rights and strengthening them. So there are cross-cutting issues about doing this through ensuring social inclusion, sustainability, and making sure that all sort of stakeholders are part of this process. So now I want to bring you to the irrigation. Why I mention this agriculture development strategy is because irrigation is one of the major indicators to achieve the outcome of higher productivity, ensuring the sustainable agriculture production system. The agriculture development strategy aims to improve the year-round irrigation coverage from current periods of nearly about 30% to 80% during its long-term time frame of 20 years. But when the agriculture development strategy was just formulated, Nepal was about to transition to the new governance system, particularly after the major changes in moving to monarchical democracy to republic system, and so that changes has happened in 2015. So in this context, there have been a lot of changes in terms of managing agricultural and natural resources also, particularly the policy changes and institutional changes. So we thought it is necessary to understand how those changes have been affecting the irrigation management dynamics. We are using the theoretical framework as our respected professor Ganesh already shared in his overarching presentation also. So we know being a group of scholar working on common pool resources management, irrigation system is a complex social ecological system which includes four subsystems. The resource system, that is the irrigation system itself, the resource units, that is particularly the water that is available for irrigation, and water users, particularly farmers, and the governance system, the organization and rules that govern irrigation. These four subsystems or four components, somehow they are relatively separable also, but they closely interact with each other, not only interacting with each other, not only internal interactions, all kind of these social ecological systems, including irrigation system, they are also subject to like external disturbances to governance system, the resource users themselves, and kind of underlying ecological system that constitute the resource. So we also use this social ecological framework. So I think I don't need to repeat here about different linkages. Professor Shivakoti very well covered the type of interactions we can see in this framework, like 8 type of interaction, like starting from resource interaction between resource and resource users to like kind of external forces affecting the resources and infrastructure as well as resource users and service providers. So we are trying to focus our analysis how the changes in governance system of the country is affecting these linkages. So now, for the sake of participants who may not have clear idea about Nepal itself and its governance structure, please allow me to spend 1 or 2 minutes saying like how we are operating in terms of political or administrative governance system. As I said earlier, Nepal adopted a formulated new constitution in 2015 after deciding to go as a republican country. So that constitution has clearly envisioned that we should move to federal structure from the earlier unitary mode of governance. Even though in the unitary mode of governance also we had decentralized systems, like including districts and different village or municipal development committees. But here, like the constitution suggested us to create 3 levels of government, 1 overarching federal government and 7 provincial, and at the very close to the people and resources, the local government. So we have 7 provinces. You can see very quickly in this table, like 7 provinces and 753 municipalities. And we also continue to maintain the 77 districts as a mostly as a coordination units between the municipalities and the provinces. And when we look at the irrigation aspects, like if you can see this map presented here, majority of the irrigable land of Nepal is situated in the southern plains and some of the valleys in middle areas. And if we look at the distribution, like you can see in the right side of like the lower part of the right side, you can see more greener areas. That is part mostly the area under province 2. And if you go in the very left corner, the top left corner, in the Karnali province, like there is this possibility of like expanding irrigation. That is particularly because of agroecological variation in agroecological conditions in the provinces. Currently, like we have about 1.45 million hectares of irrigated land, and there is still potential to expand like to irrigation to another around 1 million hectares of land, and highest potential lies in province 2 and the lowest potential lies in Karnali province again. We try to look at the irrigation coverage by different types of systems, particularly if you see the second column there, like the irrigation, particularly the surface irrigation systems developed by central agencies, particularly the agency managed irrigation, still continues to be the major source of surface irrigation. But if you look at two columns, uh, in Nepal we have a large number of small farmer managed irrigation systems, particularly initiated and operated by the farmers themselves, but because of some policy changes a couple of decades ago, some of the agency managed irrigation systems were also transferred to farmers, and they are now kind of farmer managed irrigation system also. So what I wanted to highlight here is like the farmer managed irrigation system, particularly in like inner valleys and middle areas, are very important part of irrigation service providers in Nepal. And particularly when we go to also very important source of irrigation, and in groundwater, mostly we are relying on shallow tube wells. Now, I would like to share briefly about the changing irrigation management dynamics, particularly trying to highlight the major policies that govern irrigation management in both eras. We have divided time into two: the prior to adopting the federal structure in 2015, and later, after a couple of slides, I will come to what is happening after we adopted the federal structure. Nepal's irrigation management. Nepal formulated our irrigation master plan in 1990, and the main aim was to provide a long-term strategy for development of irrigation subsector inconsistent with the availability of resources in different parts of the country. And one of the major tasks, activity done, was to develop irrigation system database under this master plan and suggesting ways to manage the irrigation system. And Nepal formulated water resources strategy in 2002, which provided the framework for systematic development of water resources in Nepal, including the use for irrigation purpose. And the key issues that were covered in that water resources strategy was to improvement of irrigation system management, intensification and diversification, and at the same time capacity strengthening of users, particularly even concerning about how we can strengthen the water users associations to manage the irrigation systems. Likewise, Nepal had formulated the National Water Plan 2005. The main aim was of the plan was to operationalize the output that was mentioned in water resources strategy. And in terms of irrigation, the main focus was on improvement and expansion of irrigated area, improving cropping intensity, irrigation efficiency, and crop yields under irrigation. And very recently, but prior to the adoption of federal structure, the irrigation policy also was revised. In fact, the irrigation policy was formulated long ago, but it was revised a couple of times, and the most recent revision was in 2013. And the aim was to provide rationale for irrigation development. So it also focused more on strengthening the water user association, defining how to establish irrigation service charges so that the operation and maintenance cost of the irrigation systems could be covered, and so that the irrigation system would function effectively. So, in the prior to federal structure, the irrigation management was a largely top-down approach, particularly in case of systems which were developed by central government, particularly in case of irrigation, agency managed irrigation system. But during that period also, there are very well documented writings that the farmers managed irrigation systems were functioning very well in Nepal. I'm saying were functioning because we have seen some changes after the change in the governance structure. Uh, the major change that we saw after adopting federal structure is that the constitution of Nepal itself, it had specified the domains and authority of three tiers of government, the federal, provincial, and local government in managing water resources and irrigation management. The irrigation development and management is listed as exclusive function of provincial and local government, but at the same time, they're still considering it is a concurrent function of different level of governments also. So, like sometimes it says like they can work the three level of government work independently in different type of functional areas, but at the same time there are some aspects included as the three tiers of government should work together. I want to briefly provide you a summary. For example, I have we have mentioned here like the tiers of government, what is the exclusive power and what is the concurrent power is envisioned in the constitution as well as the detailed unbundling report that has elaborated the domain and authority of different level of government. For example, the core function of federal government is to look at very like a broader area, providing a larger overarching policy environment in the country. For example, like the policy related to conservation and multiple use of water resources, and particularly focusing on identifying and developing large-scale inter-state type of irrigation projects. But at the same time, the concurrent powers says the like central agencies also should contribute in operating and maintaining and operation of the maintenance of the irrigation infrastructure. Likewise, the role of provincial government is to formulate master plan and irrigation systems that is particularly within the administrative jurisdiction of the province or state. Initially, the provinces were like termed as state, but now we have changed to province. And then the provincial government also can suggest like the criteria for determining the irrigation service charges, and particularly at the state level. And the local level has also received a lot of authority, particularly they are free to even like come up with some regulations or local level policy or standard to develop the irrigation system within their jurisdiction, administrative jurisdiction, and their major domain, however, is to focus on constructing and improving the small scale irrigation system. And another policy that focused on like improving the irrigation system is
Dr. Ram, maybe you can also limit your speech. Give you 2 more minutes, can you?
Yes, yeah, sure. So, as I said earlier, the agricultural development strategy emphasized increasing year-round irrigation coverage to large number, but there is no clear provincial target yet. And the most recently formulated national water resources policy also they focus on like the need of having coordination among different level of government, but the institutional structure and mandates are still unclear. There we can see a lot of overlapping responsibility. So there have been suggested organizational arrangements like the federal government still want to have their offices up to like a local level also. So that is one source of confusion. And while at provincial level, like there are unclear institutional arrangement, and in local level, we can say there is no institutional mechanism at all. So we try to look at like what could have been the effect on these linkages. For example, in case of linkage between resource and resource user, the main issue is about some effect on resource itself. But when we looked at it, the the changes in governance structure itself has no significant effect, but there have been some changes in resource boundary because of delineation of boundaries for those local government. It has created some effect. It has made some effect on collective response capacity of farm managed irrigation system. Likewise, looking at the resource users and public infrastructure provider, the overlapping and confusing roles of different types of government has affected particularly resource contribution for our operation and maintenance. In case of linkage between public infrastructure provider and public infrastructure, again the unclear responsibilities among the government has created confusion who is really the in the driver's seat for these aspects. For example, likewise, there have been some issue about changing resource dynamics, like people are going for more groundwater use and the tail issues, particularly in terms of head in and tail in conflict. The farmer managed irrigation systems were very well managed in these things, but because of changes in resource boundary, these aspects has some negative effect. Particularly, some there have been like declining effectiveness of conflict resolution area, even in case of farmer managed irrigation system. And in case of external forces, particularly like natural type of forces, drought and flash flood, it is affecting irrigation system. The major change we found is like they are facing limited financial resources to address to those issues. And lastly, particularly in case of effect on resources and resource users, particularly like we have been facing issues of out migration, labor scarcity, and increased operation and maintenance costs. We cannot see clear effect of changes in governance structure in this aspect. So I want to conclude our presentation here. We still don't have very definite answer how we should improve the situation, but what we can say is there have been confusion in roles and responsibilities among different types of government, and it's creating some issues in managing the irrigation system. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ram Sapoti. Yeah, it's nice to hear your presentation about some kind like reformation, agriculture development and irrigation management in Nepal, after the new constitution 2015. Yeah. So far, you have used also the socio-ecological framework that have been mentioned by Prof. Ganesh Bhagwati and have identified a lot of issues related of that finding from that framework, especially what's been happening at the local level that's some kind of clear for the future of the role of local institution. Okay, I've mentioned something in the chat that we invite any question or comment from participant from two presentations from Prof. Ganesh and Dr. Ram. Just write down in Q&A so I can read if there is something I can explain on the discussion session later. So I invite participants to give question and answer, question and comment on the question and answer Q&A icon. Just click there and then you can write your question there. I hope we can read that from here. Okay, next presentation, I would like to invite Dr. Yutatif. Have you able to make a good connection?
Hello?
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Yes?
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
thank you.
I can hear you now. Okay, you can share your screen.
Okay, so I will share my presentation. Okay, thank you very much. We're back to talk about Thailand, and so it's about northern Thailand also. Farmer managed irrigation system in Thailand, past, present, and future. And for background, Thailand remains an agricultural country, and it's around 30% of labor force work in agricultural sector. And in 2017, 42% of farm household has access to water source and small farm size with an average 14 rice or 2.3 hectare per household. And Thailand's agriculture area is about 149 million rice, and about irrigate area by state irrigation system is only 34 million rice. All we can say is around 23% of agricultural land. And there is still a need for farmer managed irrigation systems. Okay, for farmer managed irrigation system, known as Mueang Phai system, has been practiced in northern Thailand since the 6th century. The Mueang Phai system consists of about the structure. We are made from woods, bamboos, and rocks to divert water into a main canal, and laterals and sub-laterals, as well as farm intake at the farm level. And for the management, a Mueang Phai head and committee selected by water users and recognized by the rurals. Mueang Phai regulations for structure maintenance and water use. And this is a picture of annual maintenance for the year by water users. And this is in the past that they help each other to help for the maintenance. And in the present, Mueang Phai system is still practiced by smallholder farmers, especially outside the state irrigation area. While some Mueang Phai groups were merged into the state irrigation system. The current Mueang Phai system consists of the same main components as in the past. The structure, via main canals, laterals, sub-laterals, and farm intakes. However, in some Mueang Phai systems, structures were made more permanent, such as concrete weirs and laterals. For the management, a Mueang Phai head and assistants and/or committees selected by water users. Mueang Phai regulations for structure maintenance and water use, especially water rotation during the dry season. Support from local government for structure maintenance. This is the example of the Mueang Phai. Is located in San Payang sub-district, Mae Tang district, and Chiang Mai province, northern Thailand. For the structure, concrete weir built in 1981. Original construct with bamboo and earth around 100 years ago. And earth main canal and concrete laterals and sub-lateral. No fixed size of farm intake, ranging from 4 to 8 inches, and concrete structure supported by San Payang sub-district administrative organization. So this is a local government in the sub-district. This is a picture of the Mueang Phai that with concrete weir structure, and you can see the concrete weir here and sluice gate for main canal. Okay, and this is a picture of concrete sub-lateral of Mueang Phai. And also the example of Mueang Ho, Mueang Phai, the management. A Mueang Phai head and assistant as well as 5 committee members are selected by water user for a 3 years term. And water users pay an annual fee of 70 baht or approximately $2 per ride per year. And water users must take part in dredging of weir, main canal, laterals, and sublaterals twice a year in March, April, and June. And a fee of 100 baht or approximately about $3 is collected when repairing the Mueang Phai structure. And a fine of 500 baht is imposed in case a water user fails to participate in dredging of Mueang Phai structure. Water rotation is practiced between March and May, where water is diverted into each lateral for 4 days and coordinated by a Mueang Phai head and assistant. Okay, and for other example, we will show that the picture of other Mueang Phai, that the Wang Thong Mueang Phai is a semi-permanent weir made from wood and bamboos, as you can see in the picture. And also the Ton Chok number 1 Mueang Phai is a semi-permanent weir made from bamboos, earth, and sand eggs. Main canals. And the Ton Chok number 2 Mueang Phai is a concrete weir and earth main canal. And this is weir and also the earth main canal. And another example is the Mueang Phai in Ma An village, concrete sublateral with farm intake. This farm intake here and another one is Mueang Phai in Saluang Nai village. It's a concrete sublateral with farm intake. Okay, for the future that we talk about farm management, irrigation system, Mueang Phai system effectively helps providing water for smallholder farmers in northern Thailand and likely to do so in the near future. However, brief survey with 7 Mueang Phai heads indicate 2 main challenges. First is a reduction of water supply during the dry season. It's around March and May. And improvement of the Mueang Phai structure. Some weirs are semi-permanent, while canals, laterals, and sublaterals have not been paved. The 2 challenges are beyond the capacity of both Mueang Phai groups and local government organizations. Thus, assistance from provincial administration and central government agencies is needed. Okay, thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Yutatit, that have presented the future of the farmer management irrigation system based on what is there are 4 cases or 4 irrigation system that have been identified, and it's good to hear what the Thailand is. Okay, for participant, you can write question in the Q&A. Maybe we will. Or someone asked, I cannot see option to add question. QA. Maybe technician can give answer to the chat of Dr. Farhat about how to add the question within the question Q&A icon. This is the organizer. Okay, let's move on to next presentation. We go to Dr. Viswanathan. Dr. Viswanathan.
Yes. Good morning. Good morning, all.
Okay.
Yeah, let me share my presentation.
Yes, Dr. Viswanathan.
Is it visible?
Yes. It's good. Clear.
So thank you very much. At the outset, I wanted to thank the organizers for giving me the opportunity to make a presentation on a topic which is quite relevant in the context of the panel that we have arranged today. And before that, I thank Professor Ganesh Shivakoti because he was quite instrumental in making me think in terms of systems in whatever I do. And henceforth, I started actually looking my own research from a system perspective. And I also thank all other participants, who are also part of the research program for their valuable comments during the earlier conferences that we had at IIT Bangkok last few years. So my topic of presentation is reinventing the techno-institutional architecture and governance systems for a sustainable water future in India. This is basically, it's not a empirical study that I'm going to present, but based on my own understanding of the directions in which India's irrigation sector is moving. And towards the end, I will also try to bring in the discussion in the context of the framework that we are discussing, how we can integrate the framework in terms of understanding the changing scenario of agriculture as well as irrigation systems in India using the framework. So my presentation is structured in this manner. First, I will be talking about the emerging water security challenges in India, mostly from a water demand perspective. Then I will give a brief overview of water resources development in the country, particularly post-independence and post-colonial period, the major trends. Then I will talk about the institutional architecture and governance systems which are being prevalent now, which are being practiced now. And finally, discuss a case for reinventing the techno-institutional architecture and governance system and their performance for a sustainable water future in the country's context. So if you see, global society itself is facing acute water scarcity, and India is not an exception. India has actually India is supporting about 18% of the world population with only 4% of the global renewable water resources. So you can imagine the kind of the challenges that India would be facing. And the concerns of water scarcity in India rise from increasing water demand from multiple uses, say irrigation, drinking water, domestic, commercial and industrial. And as per the World Bank, India is among the world's most water-stressed countries. Water availability per person had fallen almost 400% in the last 60 years. If you say, look at the statistics, in the 1950s, India had abundant water availability in the range of 4,000 to 5,000 cubic meters, which had fallen to around 1,400 cubic meters, largely due to population growth. And if you apply the principles of Falkenmark, India is actually coming to be classified as an extreme water-stressed country with a scenario worsening, as you see in the picture, the graph above. So if you look at the scenario of 2015, it has already, India has already reached the category of water scarce, water scarce region. And again, moving on by 2031 and 2051 and all, the scenario is going to be much worse. And you can also see a picture, beautiful picture, where people are actually, trying to take their view of water from a groundwater source. And based on the Ministry of Water Resources projections for 2025 and 2050, there is a lot of reinventing of water use. I mean, restructuring of the water utilization to take place, mostly moving from reducing the usage of water for irrigation purposes and then looking forward, to accommodate the water available to other sectors. So in that respect, if you look at the scenario suggests that between 2025 and 2050, the water usage has to reduce. In the case of irrigation, which is 83% now, it has to go to a level of 68%. Still, it will be very high at the rate even at 2050. Even whatever efforts that we are trying to reduce the water consumption levels by restructuring the agricultural practices. And if you look at that from that perspective, a lot of scope for actually improving the water use as per the 2025 assessment. We can think about reducing the water usage by way of introducing water-saving irrigation technologies, cropping pattern changes, moving away from the water-intensive crops, etc., etc. But that's a big turnaround which actually required to make the irrigation systems, to accommodate the increasing demand for drinking water as well as other competing demand, particularly in the shale sector, etc. And nowadays we are also talking about the increasing demand for ecosystem services, which is also one of the major points of discussion when you talk about the water policies, as well as even UN agenda. Also, if you look at the Sustainable Development Goal, ecosystem services and protecting the biodiversity and all, getting a lot of importance with respect to protecting the water resources. Now, coming to the second part of my presentation, I'll be giving an overview of water resources development in the country, the major trend in the water sector development. If you look at the major trends, you can see that the supremacy of the canal irrigation systems has had a decline. And I'll come to that a little more, to explain a little more. And then you can see, on the contrary, there has been a significant emergence of the groundwater systems driven by the tube well technology. And in a sense, if you talk about it has resulted in the saturation of irrigated area under canal irrigation system, almost 48%. If you look at the irrigation percentage, net irrigated area as a percentage of total cropped area, it has been saturating at the level of canal irrigated area, I must say. It has been saturated, remaining stagnant at 48% over the last 20 years or so. And again, the other important point is that almost 50% of the country's total cropped area is drought prone, where even though the country has, the governments of the country over time had constructed dams, and a lot of investment have been made for creation of river valley, multi-purpose river valley irrigation projects, etc., etc. Still, the coverage of irrigated area could not actually reach to the drought-prone regions of the country. For instance, you can see larger parts of Maharashtra is a case for example. So in that case, again, India has turned out to be the largest user of groundwater, with almost 80% of the drinking water also coming from groundwater sources, as well as 65% of irrigation water sourced from groundwater now. And around 84% of the addition in irrigation has, over the last so many years, so many decades, has come from groundwater during particularly during the past 4 decades. And if you go back to the history, India has by and large followed the colonial legacy of investing in large-scale hydroelectric projects, which massive financial allocations went into the irrigation sector. I have shown the plan-wise investment in irrigation projects in India until the 11th plan, and again India has discontinued the planning process after the setting up of the Niti Aayog. There was no 13th plan. It was just ended with the 12th plan. Then you can see the kind of investment that has gone into the creation of irrigation potential with respect to major medium irrigation systems, groundwater, etc. Then you can see the resurgence or the emergence of the groundwater sector as the major source of irrigation in the country. That is what is shown here as well. Like you can see the decline of prominence of the surface irrigation systems and the catching up of the groundwater irrigation systems over time. And again, the groundwater systems has been intensified because of the emergence of tube well technology. The share of tube wells has increased quite exponentially, indicating the increased usage of groundwater for irrigation and growing water scarcity problem. And the dependence on groundwater also has increased with the intensification of green revolution, which depended on intensive use of inputs such as water, fertilizers to boost the farm production. It also has turned out to be quite energy intensive whole process. And of course, there was also the process has also intensified by the incentive programs or incentive systems that has been created by the government in terms of credit for irrigation equipments and subsidies for electricity supply, etc., which also worsened the situation. And also in many states you can also see the lower tariff levels for energy as well as water, and some states don't even charge for both power as well as water, which actually has triggered the process of expansion of tube well technology, which many researchers say as a process of tube well capitalism, which has revolutionized the agricultural growth of India. That's what you can also see here in this figure, where the period between 1950-51 to 74-75 has been the period where canal irrigation was quite a dominant source of irrigation in the country, followed by the dominance catching up after 1973-74 in terms of the decline of canal irrigation as well as expansion of groundwater irrigation sources as well as net irrigated area increasing as a result of tube well technology, which I have just talked about. And this also has resulted in many states reporting higher levels of groundwater extraction. You can see the blue, the graph showing blue color is actually showing the intensive extraction of irrigation water, groundwater irrigation sources for agriculture purposes in the country. Many states like Andhra Pradesh, Gujarat, I'm just talking about very few states, Punjab is the highest in that case, then Rajasthan, many Tamil Nadu, many states actually have become highly exploited the groundwater sources for irrigation development and agriculture development. And as a result, you can see the stage of groundwater development as of now, it is more than 100% in many states like Delhi, Punjab. Delhi, of course, is not for irrigation but for drinking water and other uses, industrial use also. Then Rajasthan, Haryana, etc., which are quite above the national average of 63% of groundwater development over a period of time. Now, coming to the institutional architecture of irrigation in the country, you have the surface water, then groundwater, which is basically constituting the resource for the country. And historically, the dominance of irrigation was very much there. But then now we have to actually change this dominance in terms of prioritizing the water use for domestic water as well as drinking water. With the kind of challenges arising across the country. Then of course the country has been using industrial water, and of course there is a challenge of providing water for ecological services from a demand perspective. Now coming to the institutional framework which is already there. I mean since the post-colonial period, you can see national as well as state governments have been in the picture of managing the water resources in the country, because water is a state subject also as per the Constitution of India. And then you can see that under the state government there are several state government departments, and then water supply and sanitation boards, groundwater regulation, and central and state pollution control board, and again the major governmental agencies, national level agencies which are working in the governance scenario of water sector are Central Water Commission, Central Groundwater Board, CGWB, Ministry of Water Resources, MWR, Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare, then Ministry of Rural Development and Ministry of Urban Development. These are the major agencies which are actually forming part of the water governance in the country. But if you look at the kind of interaction between these agencies, it has been always a case of lack of coordination. There's a coordination problem, and many of these organizations or agencies have been working in silos and highly bureaucratic, and top-down approach has been followed, and technocentric approach also, as Professor Ganesh Shivakoti has mentioned. And if you look at in terms of the performance of the water institution, based on a study undertaken by the International Water Management Institute by Saleh and Diner, they have actually come out with a kind of an assessment methodology where you can try to understand the water institution in terms of water law, water policy, and water administration. So if you are actually conducting a kind of a performance analysis with respect to India, with respect to all these parameters, one can see that it has been, in terms of the overall effectiveness of water law, overall effectiveness of water policy, overall effectiveness of water administration, and overall effectiveness of water institution, has been quite ineffective if you look at the kind of the canal-based irrigation system that has been promoted in the country. So there is little scope for, to say that the irrigation systems have been quite working very well. Now coming to the last part of my presentation, and there is a scope for, there is a need for reinventing the water institutions in terms of a institutional, revamping the techno-institutional architecture and governance systems in the country. Because I say that there are certain reasons I would like to highlight why I am saying that. One is the paradigm shift required as the major institutional agencies, the Central Water Commission and Central Groundwater Board, have become quite redundant in terms of addressing the water sector challenges. These agencies have been quite dominant over the last several decades, and they have been actually in existence. Just for instance, the Central Water Commission has been in existence since 1945, and the Central Groundwater Board has been in existence since 1971. But became highly bureaucratic and technocentric in their approaches. And again, you can also see over the particularly last 2 decades, India has been coming out with so many new innovative programs and national as well as state policies with respect to making interventions in agriculture as well as irrigation water sectors. Particularly the case of water saving technology, the micro irrigation systems, etc. So given that, I would say that the traditional concepts of farmer managed irrigation system, or the water user associations, the participatory irrigation management, or the irrigation management transfer, all these concepts are having very limited scope, as larger chunk of irrigated area are under the micro irrigation system in India now, where individual farmers are sole decision makers, and there is no kind of system thinking that you can bring into the kind of working of the micro irrigation system as it happens now. That is one reason why there is a need for reinventing of the structure is required in the country. Then also there is a larger requirement for stakeholder community engagement, which is remain to be quite lacking in the current scenario, and they do not come to terms with the concept of extended responsibilities in management and conservation of water. And there are also challenges of increasing climate change impacts on water resources, the extreme events happening, then closing of many of the river basins in the country because of lack of rainfall or lack of water available, etc., which are all needing a holistic approach from a multi-stakeholder engagement perspective. And you can also see, as Professor Ganesh Shivakoti has already mentioned, the climate resilient and climate smart technologies emerging in the country with respect to interventions by introducing the new state-of-the-art technologies, by particularly the GIS, application of GIS, remote sensing, artificial intelligence applications, etc., which are getting wider acceptance in the country at the national as well as state level. Even the agriculture development scenario is also widely accepting these technologies. And because of that, there is a need for revamping the institutional architecture. And of course, there has been a competing demand for fresh water resources, which hardly gets reflected in the state level policies, also water policies also. And on the urban front, you can see the urbanization has been causing several supply-related challenges. The number of people living in the urban areas is expected to be more than double and grow to around 800 million by 2050. And also there is, quite importantly, there is also a need for aligning the water resources with respect to the Sustainable Development Goals agenda, like linking the water sector with respect to the SDG number 1, no poverty, SDG number 2, zero hunger, SDG 3, good health and well-being, SDG 5, gender equality, SDG 6, clean water and sanitation. Even the latest SDG index of India shows that India is actually in many activities, many sectors in the clean water and sanitation, many indicators are poorly ranked in many of the states. Then also the SDG 8, where decent work and economic growth is very important, and SDG 14. So the point is that several of the SDGs are also invariably related to the water resources. And you can also see the kind of drought scenario emerging in the country, with the major parts of the country approaching the category of extremely dry conditions or severely dry conditions, etc. And both the pictures show the kind of the challenge of increasing drought proneness across many parts of the country. And again, of course, I have been talking about many interventions that the governments, national as well as state governments, have been introducing with respect to agriculture development as well as water management scenario, mostly from a demand perspective, demand management perspective, like accelerated irrigation benefits program, Har Ghar Ko Pani, that is giving water supply to all individual farms. Then another slogan, per drop more crop, which is emphasizing the idea of water productivity, which is basically triggered by the micro irrigation revolution under the National Mission on Micro Irrigation. Then, of course, the watershed development program as an integrated water resource management approach, where focus is mostly on the drought-prone area. And again, the last one is Jalayukt Shivar Abhiyan, which means fields filled with water, where the MGNRG, the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Program, is integrated to rejuvenate the water bodies in the country. Now, coming to the last part, basically it requires a kind of a developing, moving on. We need to have a better understanding of the systems, how it is working, whether it is a micro irrigation system or even a canal irrigation system, with respect to the new program being introduced by the Government of India with several programs which I have already mentioned. And again, there are also concept and new idea is being talked about, that is dismantling the Central Water Commission and the Central Groundwater Board by way of setting up of a new agency which is known as the National Water Commission, where the emphasis is basically given for setting up of several divisions cutting across major domains of water, like irrigation division, river rejuvenation division, aquifer mapping and participatory groundwater management division, water security division, urban and industrial water division, water quality division. So which means that from a multi-interdisciplinary perspective, the National Water Commission proposed is going to take the challenges that are confronting the water sector. But again, the point I conclude by just mentioning about the integrated approach of evaluation that Professor Ganesh Shivapati has been mentioning, where you need to understand the entire irrigation system or the water resources development from a system perspective, where you have to think about the water sector interacting with the technologies, economy and society, as well as providing for ecology, ecosystem and biodiversity benefits with a lot of institutions as such, but no institutions are very poorly interacting with each other. So with that kind of a background, I just thought of presenting a framework, incorporating the elements of the IAD framework. We probably start with the DPSIR framework, where the problems, challenges, etc., the drivers, pressures, state of the resources, impacts, and the responses being understood at a system level, whether it is an individual system or a larger system, irrigation system. Then we move on to value the benefits to the community in terms of water, the economic benefit, the social benefits, environmental, cultural, and spiritual benefit. Then we finally go on to understand the institutional aspects of the water management as proposed under the IAD framework, where we try to understand the water management from a community perspective and how it is enabling or how it is kind of helping the communities to sustain their livelihood in terms of interaction between actors, conflicting versus whether it is conflicting versus cooperative, then access to resources, trying to understand the conflicts in action, then rules and regulations, formal and informal, and finally the outcome, the collective action, sustainability of the resources and the livelihoods. So basically, due to the COVID situation, we could not attempt any kind of a empirical study based on this framework, but I just thought of presenting this for any comments from the participants' point of view. So that's all. Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Dr. Viswa. Yes, we have very important presentation. Yeah, it's interesting what is happening in India. Yeah, Dr. Viswa mentioning about the water crisis, ecosystem services, and then that drive new trend from gravitate irrigation system to groundwater irrigation system. Yeah, the changes and the challenge in India had guided to new reinvent, or we call it reinventing the techno-institutional architecture and governance, and then it concludes with the integrated approach. Yeah, frameworks maybe guided also by the framework of have been mentioned by Prof. Sivakwati. Thank you very much, Dr. Viswa. And then I didn't see yet Prof. Helmi here. Yeah. Maybe there is something problem with Prof. Helmi. And then we go to Professor Pampa Mukherjee.
Yes, good morning.
Okay.
I'll just share.
Okay. It's time for you, Professor Pampa. So please limit to 15 minutes, possible.
Very good morning to all of you. And I first like to thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity. And I would like to thank Professor Rudy for chairing this session, and Professor Ganesh Shivakuti for giving me this opportunity and joining me to this wonderful collaborative research group. Now, with these words, I would like to speak on rights, resources, and institutions, community managed irrigation systems in India. My previous speaker, Professor Vishwanathan, has given a broad framework within which water resources in India has to be understood, and the way the structures and institutions have to be analyzed. From broader framework, I go into more of specifics, and I would like to talk about community managed irrigation systems in India. Now you'll agree with me, and I find since morning that there's so much of commonality of experience of issues among different countries within Asia. Now, in the Asian context, there is existence of numerous community-managed institutions around resources, water, forests, pastures, and fisheries, and we find diverse examples from countries like Pakistan, India, Indonesia, Thailand, Nepal, Philippines, among others. And we all agree that most of these institutions are now confronted with diverse challenges over a period of time. Issues of modernity, coming of the state, market, the issues of capital, social capital, as well as financial capital, all this becomes an important issue. So in a nutshell, governance of common pool natural resources has emerged an issue of increasing concern among these Asian countries. Now from Asia, now I'm going to focus more specifically on India, and within India, I'm going to look at different issues that exist within traditional water management system. Now, India has a rich and diverse history of management of traditional systems of irrigation by farmers. And you have for centuries, farmers have relied on community managed systems for farming. From across different states of India, you find different kinds of traditional water management, which are generally used for irrigation. From Haryana, you have Johad. In Bihar, you have Aharpain. In Arunachal Pradesh, which is in northeastern part of India, you have Apatani. And you have Maharashtra, you have Fard. And in Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, that is the hilly region, you have the pools. And in Meghalaya, there is a bamboo tree irrigation. In South India, there is tank irrigation. So there are multiple types of community or managed irrigation systems, farmer managed irrigation systems in India. So in a nutshell, India has such a rich and varied history of management of traditional system of irrigation, and in which the diversion of water from rivers and streams is the most commonly found form of user-managed traditional irrigation systems. Now, despite their prevalence, what you find, and Professor Vishwanathan has mentioned many of the challenges, that despite their prevalence in many parts of the country for a long period of time, the contribution of farmer-managed irrigation system was not duly appreciated, or rather neglected. And one reason for this is neglect is that while farmer-managed irrigation systems assume great significance in a regional context, their contribution at national level reduces to minuscule proportion vis-a-vis other sources of irrigation. The other reason for the lack of appreciation for a period of time has been that farmer-managed irrigation system, as far as farmer-managed irrigation system is due to clubbing together of several techniques of irrigation under the head quote-unquote other sources of irrigation. However, we find that in recent years, considerable attention has been given to the involvement of farmers and other water users in the process of managing and developing irrigation. And two factors are responsible for this. One is the numerous problems faced by agency-managed or government-run irrigation system, which also includes mounting fiscal burden on state exchequer. And second is publication of research findings on successful management of traditional systems of irrigation by farmers in many parts of the world. Now, I take pool irrigation in Himachal Pradesh, which is a hilly region located in the northern part of India, as a case, and not going very detailed, which becomes an example of many of the issues which are confronted by many of the community managed irrigation systems in many parts of the world. Pool irrigation, you find similar type of experiences in Pakistan. We also find similar kind of irrigation system in Nepal. So pool irrigations are simple irrigation canals which are constructed of earthen materials and structured by the landscapes in which they flow. They intersect with gullies and other minor mountain streams and sub-channels, and they are created to divert water to the fields. Glacier or snow-fed stream is the main source, and they are used for irrigating fields, draining water following rains, running water mills, and even for drinking water, and hence they are part of a dynamic hydrosocial landscape. They are farmer or community managed, and all water users generally tend to contribute in the maintenance in exchange of rights to access water. Now, there are various customary practices and conventions which ensures equitable distribution of water. as far as the person which is itself is an institution regarding the management of this irrigation system is the hereditary water master, who plays a very important role given his astute, indigenous knowledge, local knowledge in management and supervision. Apart from that, there exists committee, water management committee, which includes president, vice president, and other elected members. Now, what has happened, what is important for us in this presentation is what are the changes and what has been there for the governance challenges. One is the broader changes that have taken place. With neoliberal economy, with now focus on economic growth, there are certain important changes that have taken place. One is that it has resulted in off-farm employment, meaning to say that agriculture no longer remains the core, sustenance, source of sustenance. So you find that there is declining source of agriculture, particularly those who have more money, among upwardly mobile. Even though we have to agree that agriculture still remains important among poorer sections of the people. Okay. Now, consequently, what has happened because of off-farm employment, particularly among the young generation, there is a massive mobility, out-migration, and hence the capital, the human capital that is required for the maintenance and governance of this kind of community-managed irrigation system has been a very big challenge. Now, and second important consequence is that it has undermined the shared practices of collective action, which is at the core of the success of farmer-managed or community-managed irrigation systems. Second important development that we find is the gradual and growing state involvement in micro-level irrigation systems and in community-managed irrigation systems. In many of this, this is a reality, I'm sure, not only in the case of India, but in many other Asian contexts, that gradually government has taken over this community-managed systems, schools in the case of Himachal or India. Now, what has happened because of this? This again has weakened community bonding, alienating people from management. Second important aspect is this: the negative impact, what that you can say, that has been neglect of these sources as an important source of drinking water. Now, the reason for it is that with the government intervening, while it also has its positive implications, villagers generally tend to get water to their homes provided by the government pipes and tanks and other facilities. Now, with all this development, one thing has happened that it has created disincentives among people who were otherwise dependent on these natural resources. Further, what has happened that, as we know, water that is meant for irrigation was primarily for sustenance agricultural production, particularly wheat and rice in this area. Now, food grain requirement is now met through public distribution systems, which again has created, while it is good in one aspect, it has also created conditions whereby that, it has created disincentive among the user groups. On the other hand, what we find is that another kind of development has taken place because of the state coming in. There has been a state involvement, and with state involvement, new kind of state-society interaction has emerged in this settings. So what is happening is there is an increasing everyday engagement with government programs. As my previous speaker has already mentioned, there are different kinds of government programs. So along the society, the citizens have engagement with these programs. Secondly, there is a high degree of political competition. Okay, so you cannot discount politics. There is electoral politics, and that impacts some way. And since 1990, government programs have been under the control of village councils. So there is a trend towards decentralization. To my audience, as we all know, with the 73rd Constitutional Amendment Act, now the most of these institutional structures have been decentralized. And as a part of that mandate, many of the government programs are now under the control of panchayats or the village council. Now, as a result of which, we find that there are now multiple resources available for different infrastructure. For example, for electricity, for roads, for development, and other set of developments, including water infrastructure. Now, these socioeconomic challenges, which earlier existed, and these socioeconomic changes were now challenging the existing management system. All these developments are challenging the existing scenario, the existing management systems, leading to what you call new kinds of state-society engagements. Okay. So what has happened earlier, there was a dependent, mostly the society was dependent on intimate knowledge of the water master, which was an ongoing process, which was an iterative process. Now with state-supported projects, which are more target-oriented, bureaucratic, standardized design, because of all this, it has changed the mechanics of governance. Okay, it changed the mechanics by which governance actually takes place. It has changed the entire, in some way, institutional ecosystem. Now, given all these realities that exist at the ground level, and taking pools as an example, some of the broader observations one can make is that community managed irrigation system in the context of India should be now seen as a collaborative engagement between community and state institutions. It should be seen as a part of a broader social and economic system, which is now, when we are talking about these community managed irrigation systems, we cannot take them as neutral agencies. It is actually characterized by great asymmetries of power across caste, class, and gender lines. In fact, if you take pools of Kangra as an example, Kangra is a district in Himachal Pradesh in the northern part of India. It reflects a broader process of transformation through which plans and designs of central authorities have come to bear on mountain societies. It has, this is an example where we can now have to think in terms of, it has brought in new authorities, it has brought in new technologies, and in fact, it has altered the social basis of management by bringing in new actors in the governance process. In a nutshell, what you therefore find, that broader process of economic change, whether it is regional and local, significant shifts have taken place, which many mountain societies in recent years are going to, experience. Further, what you find now, with all this, I will like to point out and throw certain questions for further collaborative work among different societies and communities on this. So, in what ways changing socio-ecological context have impacted the management of community-managed irrigation systems? How market forces have impacted these irrigation systems? How gender, caste, class intersects in the governance of irrigation systems? In what ways developments like out-migration, climate change, market, and existing state-society relationships has forebearing on their functioning? Despite multiple stress on the system, why some community managed irrigation systems continue to persist? So therefore, we need to focus on their durability and continuity, which demands a more concerted, systematic understanding of these varied kinds of community managed irrigation systems that you find in different Asian societies, which they would demand a more collaborative kind of work among different countries of the region. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Professor Pampa. Yeah, something that it's emphasized what been mentioned also by Dr. Viswa, the issues in India, and Professor Pampa keep emphasizing on the community management irrigation system, the challenge, the changes, the institutional adjustment that should be needed for to rise up the importance of the local peoples, community in their irrigation system. And okay, I think I will not give a chance also for the participant to be question. Maybe among panels can also give comment and respond, because it's a very important discussion, sharing from one country with another. We have heard already from Thailand, Nepal, and then we will hear also what is happening in Pakistan later. Dr. Razaullah. Dr. Razaullah, you already here?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Thank you very much, Professor Pampa. And I will invite Dr. Razaullah. It's time for you.
Let me share my presentation first.
Yeah, your time also 15 minutes possible, and then we can go for discussion.
So, hello everyone, I'm Razaullah, working as assistant professor at the Institute of Agriculture in Pascasarjana, Pakistan. I'll be jointly presenting with Farhad from the Institute of Technology in Thailand. We'll talk about the irrigation landscape of Pakistan. We will provide a brief history of the irrigation systems or the water sector of Pakistan, and then we will present what challenges the system face, and based on those challenges we will provide. These are the benefits of our presentation. We will provide a country situation or situation analysis of the country states out of the water sector of Pakistan. Then we will talk about the irrigation systems in found in different regions of Pakistan, and we will provide a brief history of this basic irrigation system, which is the largest irrigation system of the world. What challenges do this system faces, and based on those challenges we will provide a way forward. Before moving to the way forward, Farhad from the Institute of Technology will present a case study based on the interspaces irrigation system. So the background, as you all know, that water, globally the water resources are depleting, and Pakistan is no exception to this. In fact, Pakistan is the most affected country by the climate change, and these effects and consequences will more severely in the water sector. There is special variation in the amount of rainfall received by the Pakistan, ranging from less than 100 millimeter in some parts of the lower Indus Valley, while some parts of the upper Indus Valley receives more than 7 millimeters of rainfall. Snowmelt and glacial runoff contribute significantly to the country's surface waters, and the remaining is from June rains. Pakistan is both water stressed and a water scarce country. Pakistan surface water resources per capita per annum declined from over 5,000 meter cube at the time of independence to close to 1,000 meter cube in the 1960s. We rely mostly on groundwater extraction, which is around 61 kilo cube or 50 million acre feet per year, which is beyond sustainable or permissible. We have the world's highest rate for water usage and water intensive, which again questions our water use productivity. So the water supply for Pakistan, we receive an average of 146 million acre feet in this river system, of which for 97.71 million acre feet is the canal head works, and while the remaining 48.2 million acre feet is losses and it's to the irrigation system. Pakistan also extract around 50 million acre feet from water resources. At present, the Pakistan water resources are mainly dependent on the three western river of the Indus, that is Kabul River, which then again Indus River at Jhelum and Chenab. We also receive 4.60 million acre feet of water flowing from India to Pakistan, Eastern River that widely can be asked, with an additional 3.33 million acre feet of runoff generated in India areas. Carbon level also significantly contribute to the water surface water resources of Pakistan, as its amount is 20 million acres. So you can see there is a special variation in the amount of surface water availability, and there is also temporal variability in the surface water availability in Pakistan. There is a variation of water availability over time in Pakistan as reflected in this chart. The water demand is rising rapidly with the population rise. The population of Pakistan is expected to increase to 30 million by 2025, which will then increase the demand of fresh water or surface water resources. And the anticipated increase is 10 million in the agricultural sector, 6 million acres to be, then 1.3 acres to be in the municipal and industrial sector. There are different types of irrigation systems in different areas of Pakistan. We can broadly categorize this irrigation system in large-scale canal irrigation system, which have state operators for its operational management, while on the other hand, we have some small community managed irrigation systems. So, community-based irrigation, small-scale irrigation systems, a snowmelt irrigation system, a spat irrigation system, and whereas while the large-scale canal irrigation system is the interdisciplinary irrigation system in Pakistan. The snowmelt irrigation system, mostly found in the Karakoram range and some part of the federally administered tribal areas, recently merged with the province of Pascasarjana, where the water is supplied almost exclusively by these meltwater from small snow and ice. And all the cultivation, the crop rely mostly on meltwater from small glaciers or snow and ice stages in the zone above 3,500 meters. These irrigation systems are managed by local farming communities under the Rajati, which is a traditional system of irrigation channel management. State irrigation system, which is mostly found in the province of Balochistan, comprised of check dams, diversion canals, ponds, etc., that divert water from the beds of perennial river during flood or high river flow. State irrigation system has a long history. Ponds as old as 5,000 years have been found in Uttar district in Balochistan. Aside from Balochistan, it is also practiced in some districts of Punjab, including Dera, Rajasthan, Rajasthan, and parts of Punjab. It is also practiced in northwestern Uttar range along the shore and reaching up to parts of Karachi. This is also practiced in southern districts of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, including Dera Ismail and parts of Lakhimabad. And the total area under this irrigation system ranges 1.4 to 2.34 million hectares. Carré system is in Pakistan. It is confined to the province of Balochistan, and this is an indigenous method of irrigation in groundwater instead pipeline. It is a community enterprise, and it is managed by the tribal tradition and run by the social control. Though its original origin is not known, however, there is a consensus that this system of irrigation has been originated in Iran around 3,000 years ago. And it reached the district of the province of Balochistan, the North Balochistan from Afghanistan, and the South Balochistan from Iran. Though the number of carriages are declining rapidly, however, there are still 800 carriages partially or fully working, irrigating about 50,000 hectares of land. In this basin irrigation system, Pakistan has the world's largest contiguous irrigation system, the Indus Basin irrigation system, with a command area of 14.87 million hectares. And this system, or this river, flows through the entire length of Pakistan, starting from the Himalayas and to the front coast of the Arabian Sea, and it covers around 200,000 square miles with a general slope of 1 feet per mile. The physical infrastructure of the Indus Basin irrigation system include three major dams for water storage, 19 barrages, and inter-river link canals, which divert water from the western river to the eastern river command areas, 45 major canals, 4,000 distributaries, and 107,000 water courses. And this system, and this interconnected system, is controlled by a hierarchy of federal, provincial, and district level state irrigation officials. These are the components of the irrigation, Indus Basin irrigation system, where the water from the river is diverted to the main canal and branch canal using barrages and weirs. And from there, it is then diverted to the major distributaries and minor before finally reaching farmers' field through an elaborated system of water courses. The irrigation system mostly found in Pakistan is the flood irrigation system technique, which uses more water than the water requirement, and that's the reason why our crop water productivity is the lowest among them. The water quantity and time of delivery at the farm level is conducted through a rotating schedule called Varabandi. Varabandi is a local term, and this is used for the system of allocating water resources. The brief history of interstate irrigation system. Irrigation along the main river started in the Iberian base. The 5,000 years old civilization of Harappa and Mohenjo-daro are believed to depend on waters of Ravi and Indus River respectively. The inundation canal came into use in the 1351 to 1380 in the reign of Feroz Shah Tughlaq, who dug inundation canal in India for irrigation and colonization. And these systems, the I-base and the small irrigation system, remained in the community control for managed under the existing communal structure. However, these inundation canal do not provide irrigation water in the dry season, and these inundation canal only provide water in the high flow period. To cater this issue, the British authorities started modernizing and expanding the irrigation system of the Indus Basin, and the controlled year-round irrigation began in 1859 when the upper Bari-Doab canal was completed on Ravi River, and the last inundation canal were connected to weir control supplies in 1962, the completion of Abdul Birajan and his At the time of independence in 1977, the irrigation and basin irrigation systems were divided between India and Pakistan without regard to the ecological boundaries of the resource system, which created an international dispute in 1948. And with the help of the World Bank, there was a treaty, Indus Water Treaty, which was signed between Pakistan and India to resolve the issue. What are the existing challenges that we face in the water sector? Major challenges include the conflicts. These conflicts can be transboundary, interprovincial, or at the water course level between head and tail and water users. There is variability, spatial and temporal variability in the water supplies, and there is management governance challenges, and there are some other issues we discussed. The transboundary water issue of Pakistan started right after its independence in 1947. In the 1960s, the World Bank, with the mediation of the World Bank, devised a mechanism for an equitable distribution of water between Pakistan and India. The treaty allocated the western rivers in this Jhelum and Chenab to Pakistan, while the eastern river, Ravi, Sutlej, and Beas were allocated to India. However, India has been building a number of dams as run-of-the-river hydroelectric projects requiring the ability to manipulate the flow of water, and the unaddressed Pakistani complaints at the international forum can become a serious source of conflict between India and Pakistan. Pakistan also shares water resources with Afghanistan, the Kabul River, which flows from Afghanistan toward Indus River and is a source of power and irrigation in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa region of Pakistan. It is the Kabul River is also important for Afghanistan as it extends over 9 provinces, supporting 25 million livelihoods. Pakistan is both at the upper and lower riparian level. As one of the major contributors to the Kabul River, the Cunard River originates in Chitral in Pakistan. It flows to Afghanistan and joins Kabul River at Jalalabad, and then it flows back to Pakistan, the Kabul River, and joins the Indus River at Atak, which is the capital territory. The absence of any water treaty between the two makes it insecure. Afghanistan is now unilaterally planning to construct dams on River Kabul, which will adversely affect lower riparian Pakistan and will cause international water dispute between the two countries. Interprovincial conflicts are not new. It's date back to time when the British transformed irrigation in the Indus Basin in 1850s. The issue of lower riparian Sindh province started with the development of hydrological structure in Punjab in 1850s. While Sindh raises its voice against these developments, and as a result, the government of India Act of 35, section 130 and section 131.6 lay down that in case of inter-provincial flows of the rivers, provinces need special permission from the Vice President projects. After the independence in 1991, there was a water accord which mitigates some provincial concerns by formulating a particular formula, allocating water through a particular formula. However, there is a lack of a system of implementation, which is overlooked by the Indus River, and with the lack of this implementation system, there is no administrative flows in the event of dispute, and these disputes are still there. Water course level conflicts are between the head and the tail ends. Water course itself is a small irrigation system with head and tail end water users. The IBIS water are distributed through Varabandi system, and there are two types of Varabandi system, the Kachi Varabandi and the Pakki Varabandi. The Kachi Varabandi is an informal agreement among the farming communities, while the Pakki Varabandi is a permanent structure of water distribution as assigned by the water officials. Higher water poverty prevails at the tail end of the irrigation system because of the illegal diversion at head end, poor water course maintenance resulting in losses to be faced by tail enders, and the system level shortages with higher burden to be borne by the tail enders. And this, there is an inadequate water allocation along the irrigation canals, allow excess water use by head end farmers, which again result in the conflict between the head and the tail end water users. The variability in the water, there is spatial and temporal variability in the freshwater supplies of Pakistan. The uncertainty associated with the water supply is complicated with centuries-old varying relationships between countries, states, and farmers in various locations of the water courses. This variability also increases the gap between the demand and supply of waters, as indicated earlier. 2050 to 2025, we will need additional water for irrigation, we will need additional water for industrial use, we will need additional water for municipal. Government challenges are there also. In many ways, the water crisis is because of the lack of governance resulting from the failure of public institutions responsible for managing the resources. They are not managed properly for the well-being of governments and ecosystem. While there are laws governing water, however, these laws are outdated and archaic, and there are hardly any new reforms. If there are attempts of new reforms for water management, they have simply added bureaucracy on the top of existing framework, and there are agencies with poor level duties. There was a national water policy in 2018, which a cause of for optimism in Pakistan, but it's vague and sometimes the political body is concerned that the country's water crisis will continue to worsen. There is no clear-cut policy for water in Pakistan. Governance management issues, the current government structure, the idea is that these waters are managed at provincial level. PIDAs are there, provincial irrigation and drainage authorities, which were established in 1990s with the objective of decentralization, empowering farmers, and improving efficiency and sustainability. So the area water boards are tasked to operate the main and branch canals, while the farmer organizations were tasked to for the operation and maintenance at distributive and minor canals. While the PIDAs have transformed the government's financial burden to farmers, but it has hardly improved any operation and management and productivity of irrigated lands. Other issues include low storage capacity, which is the root cause of many of the conflicts, because we have only 15% of the annual flow storage capacity, which can be stored for 30 days. Low system efficiency and crop water productivity as the irrigation method, the flood irrigation method use more water. Therefore, our water productivity is lowest among the world, and the system efficiency is around 30 to 40% from the canal head to the crop zone. Water logging and salinity are the major issues. Water logging issues are mostly found in the head end where more water is available and abundance of water is used, causing water logging, while the salinity issues are mostly found in the tail end where the surface water availability is low, and the water users are augmenting their water supplies by using saline groundwater, which is causing salinity in those areas. Before moving to the paper, I'd like to ask Farhad Zulfikar to present his case. Farhad Zulfikar, can you?
Thank you very much, Dr. Razaullah. Hope you can hear me loud and clear.
Yes, yes.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Raza, for introducing some of the water systems in Pakistan and then highlighting the challenges which we have. And before going to the recommendations or the way forward, I'd like to present a case study which we recently conducted. And next, please, Raza.
Yes.
Yes, a case study in the community managed water system in Indus Basin irrigation system. And I'd like to point out here that many issues here which we will highlight are common to what earlier presenters have identified in the water management. For example, Dr. Ram presented related with, coal system in, not Dr. Ram, Dr. Viswanathan in India in coal, and then Dr. Ram also pointed out some of the community managed irrigation systems in Nepal. Then in Thailand was also represented Mung 5. And so similar to that, but in here our system is kind of agency assisted system where communities are managing some of the roles which were assigned to them by the provincial irrigation and drainage system, which Raza pointed out through PDAS. So here we identified these problems through community managed irrigation systems, and these systems are managed by the community through farmers. Okay, and we saw that how the roles are performed by them and whether they are robust in the face of climate change or not. Next. And we found out that the conflict resolution role which was performed by the community managed system, these were one of the least followed principle, and these we tested all the Ostrom's design principles, all basic 8 principles, and we found that conflict resolution system was the least followed principle, and this has repercussions in the face of climate change, because climate change is expected to alter the supply of water for farmers, and the centralized management systems, they are expected to find it difficult to resolve these because of bureaucratic hurdles. But community managed irrigation systems are able to respond to these very quickly because of quick information transmission mechanism. Next. And here we have some of the roles which are performed by these community managed irrigation systems, which we call Khal Panchayat, which Professor Pampa also mentioned Panchayat in a different way, but here we have water course level organizations which are performing these functions. As you can see on the lower left corner, that conflict resolution is the least followed principle, but the maintenance of water course and some of the other principles, they are being managed well in these irrigation systems. Next. So what we find from here is that although some roles are being performed well, but others are not, and then there are going to be more kind of issues which are not only applicable at the local level, but at the broader level as well, as Raza mentioned, with India, with Afghanistan, because Pakistan is in some cases a lower riparian and in some cases upper riparian country. So these issues are going to be there, and a system where we can manage it well in future can reduce some of the conflicts which are going to be there, and these are going to be more and more in the face of climate change. So another way forward from our both presentation is increasing the storage capacity, because currently the system in Pakistan is a supply driven system where water becomes available and then it flows down from the upper areas, and it is supplied to the farmers at the field level. But there are very less storage capacity available, whereby Pakistan can store some of the water and then make it available to the farmers at at the farm level when it is really needed. So that will also increase the water use efficiency and improve the governance of water management system in Pakistan. Next. And community managed irrigation system provides some of the solutions to the above problems I highlighted. And we feel that from our case study, the community managed irrigation system, which is assisted by the central government, a kind of agency assisted irrigation management system, is the way forward for Pakistan. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Rajaullah and Dr. Farhad. Very interesting information that has been presented in Pakistan. The issues, especially about the issues of transboundary conflict. Something that not been mentioned yet by other presenters. So here, the issue in Pakistan is very significant, and then the challenge relatively to new policy of water is like also in Indonesia. After new policy of water in Indonesia, there are a lot of changes in farm irrigation system management. Okay, I didn't want to give too much comment from this. Thank you again to Dr. Rajaullah and Dr. Farhad. Before we go for discussion, I do hope that all presenters can see the question and answer. But before, please, Dr. Rajaullah, you can stop screen. It's very unfortunate that we cannot make Prof. Helmi available for this session. The organizer have tried to contact him, but he's not also in handphone. Dr. Rajaullah, can you stop screen the presentation?
Yeah, I'm working on it, but I found it.
Could I invite Professor Ganesh first? Professor Ganesh?
I think, Rata, you need to share screen.
Share screen. There is a new share.
Maybe, yeah, I would like to invite Professor Ganesh. Maybe you can give a brief, some kind like emphasizing what been presented by the others, especially because it seems to us that you give frameworks on issues water governance. Maybe you can give also some comment first to what is happening in many countries, India, Pakistan, Thailand, Nepal. Yeah, but unfortunately, that Prof. Helmi cannot be here with us. Cannot share also what is happening. Yes, Professor Ganesh, just quick comment and maybe some questions that you can give us.
Yeah, thank you very much. I can see that there are not many question and answer.
Yeah, that's right.
There is only one from Dr. Budathogi who was asking, in Nepal, the groundwater situation is very bad. Is it the same in other South Asian countries? I can answer that definitely yes. India is the worst. Pakistan is not better either. So, Dr. Budathogi, we all are in the same boat. So, with that, just let me, put the perspective why we have all these people bringing out the national issue as well as, some of the important farmer managed, community managed, traditional irrigation systems, which are look like they are displaced and neglected. But at the same time, the community which has survived for century, they are challenging the center. The center more that. Okay, you say that we are very small in scale and all those type of things. We may not count in your, major economic, average, statistical average, but we are still here. And then be careful before you try to neglect us, and then so we can anytime spring back. Okay, that are the type of the situation. But for that, it is not the policy formulation process. Whenever we look at it, over 5-year plan, 10-year plans, or Ramchandra was talking about 35 years plan in Nepal, and the looking at the sustainable development goals and agenda, we can see that these community managed irrigation systems have to be integrated if we want to attain the sustainable development goals, and then especially in the context of the climate change. And in 2018, 2019, in AIT, and also in our field visit in Chiang Mai, we have been trying to make a network of scholars who study irrigations in Asia, which started with the major database, mega database that was created by Eleanor Ostrom and her team from the Nepal Irrigation Institutions systems, and that has come up to the Asian irrigation institutions and systems. And I'm very glad to see that we have many commonalities among the nations, and we have also the many uniqueness. So that part has to be further elaborated and provided into the research framework in such a way that we can bring and we can learn from each other in terms of sharing the commonalities and embracing the uniqueness. So that's what we want to do. And then Professor Viswanathan was very kind that he coordinated with all of our country team leaders, and we have come up with two forms of Asian irrigation institutions and systems. One is the modified NIIS, Nepal Irrigation Institution System database. Another is the household level and community level. The community level, individual country and individual context specific additional questionnaires we have added on. So now we were trying to go to the field, and this the COVID did not allow us to go for that. As soon as we are permitted, we have some resources to start this field level data collection, and then we'll try to meet next time either in Andalas or in Thailand or in some Asian countries, and then we'll come back and do the reporting. At the same time, we'll try to collect information, and then for this session that we have come up, I can see that we have very good national level perspective and then challenges at the local level. So I propose that our team work on the special issue of either the International Journal of the Commons or society and natural resources. So I think Viswanathan may be the guest editor, and then we can join in the editing team, and then try to do the things immediately so that we can bring it at least to the intellectual level, and then also the people who are concerned about the policy. That is my thing.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Ganesh. I think it's wrap up something that we discussed this morning. There are some questions to Dr. Ram, in the question and answer. Maybe Dr. Ram can give response here, although some been already answered in the chat.
Sure.
And also, maybe some question also from to Professor Pampa. Okay, Dr.
Yeah, sure. There were three questions. Like one question was about like uh, what are the criteria for uh, assessing irrigation suitability. So uh, this is this work is a part of irrigation master plan 2019 that was developed through like Department of Irrigation. So I, in fact, I was not part of the team who did that, but I used that information as a source. But I have seen like they have typically used like 8 criteria related to soil type, land use, water resources, and in the land slope also. So and groundwater use aspects also. Uh, uh, those criteria are well defined in that irrigation master plan document. So if the team is interested, I can share that document as a reference. In that part, maybe I can say only up to that. And there was another question about whether the new water governance system assist or replace the farmer managed irrigation system in Nepal. Uh, as I said at the very beginning of my presentation, like even though like we are talking about like how the transition to federal governance structure has affected different entities of social ecological system and the interactions among them, like I think the situation is still in flux, and like the our federal structure is yet to settle in. Maybe in the immediate term, even farmer managed irrigation systems are facing some difficulties. But in the long term, when the local government's role is settled clearly, I think in case of managing the farm managed irrigation system, the situation will be even better um, in the long run. And there was another question by Mr. Min Pudatke about like uh, some of the particular project in west part of Nepal, like deep groundwater, deep tube well groundwater systems. Why? What is the situation? Whether they are running nicely or what is the sustainability issue? Uh, to be honest, like we didn't look at the details of these individual cases while working on this particular paper. But when I was working with International Water Management Institute, we had done some survey of deep tube wells in those areas, and we noted that many of them have failed, particularly due to poor management of the infrastructure, because deep tube well has a relatively large infrastructure and it needs regular operation and maintenance also. And at the same time, in that particular area, because of urbanization and other phenomenon, like there is declining interest in agriculture, particularly in that part of the country, and so many of them, those systems have failed. So that was my response. I think these were three questions addressed to me, and like particularly about that groundwater system also, as the Professor Shivapati mentioned. I think the situation is not very much different among the countries in South Asia. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ram. But I saw Dr. Farhad give hand. You have something to say again?
Yes. Thank you, Professor Rudy. Actually, the same question I also wanted to respond.
If anyone would like to give question or comment, maybe you can raise a hand also. Then we can let you speak after Dr. Farhad.
Yes. So I wanted to respond to that groundwater situation. Yes, in Pakistan specifically, groundwater situation is not very good. We don't have a good groundwater irrigation policy. I mean, there is no specific national policy to stop you or allow you to extract groundwater. Although there are some, individual some societies which have prevented or have regulation, but at the national level, groundwater policy is not there. So the groundwater level is going down, with each passing day. And I also have one question from Dr. Jutathik actually.
Yep.
Yes. With Mung 5 system, you mentioned that there are some sanctions if the farmers they don't participate in the maintenance, right? So what if they don't pay? If they refuse to pay, what happens? For example, if I am a farmer and I don't want to participate in the maintenance, so what the community will do? I'm asking this because we found similar problem in our study, and there was no solution to it. If somebody refuses to pay, there is only social pressure which is possible. There is no regulatory mechanism there. There is no legal penalty. What is the case in Thailand? In Mangsa?
Okay. Okay, thank you, Dr. Farhat. Okay, the question is goes to Dr. Jutatif now. Yeah, you can go. And the other, Dr. Professor Pampang, raise your hand. Okay, I will give you answer. You want to give question, or I will let Dr. Jutatif go?
One small little comment and small.
Okay, comment.
And this is regarding Dr. Farhad's question regarding groundwater. You know, like similar, Professor Vishwanathan did speak about, the situation of groundwater, and I am now at the moment in that the other side of India, Punjab, Indian side of Punjab, and the groundwater situation is extremely deplorable. It is the worst in the entire Indian context. At the same time, very interestingly, and I think similar, I think case studies must be there from Pakistan, that the communities have evolved, particularly the small and medium farmers. There is this practice of what is called shared tube wells, because it's only the big farmers who can manage to drill and have tube wells. So there is what they call in local parlance Sanja. Earlier it was the Persian will, the Gharat, what the Persian will. Now the technology has changed, but the what you call the kinship model has continued. So it is a kinship model based sharing of water that exists on both sides of Punjab. It will be great if does do some work of this kind. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you, Professor Pampang. Okay, goes to Dr. Jutatif. You can respond to Dr. Farhad's question.
Thank you very much. For the group of farmer is a small group. It's not a big like member of 100 or something. So they know each other, and then they can talk, and for if someone that they have to pay for the fine, and if he doesn't want to pay, so he will not allow to use the water. And also because the small group, they can manage, and also he will get the social pressure to follow the regulation or the rule of the group. Okay.
Yeah, social pressure still, yeah.
Sorry, Dr. Jutadev. Yes, we found similar thing that social pressure is there to do that, but legally in Pakistan you cannot prevent anybody from accessing your turn of the water. I mean, you cannot prevent. You can say that okay, the farmers they can come together and say that we are going to penalize you and this and that, but legally you cannot prevent. So maybe it is different in some other countries or some other experiences. But if the farmer, in the same water course, if there are 3 farmers, one is very big, other 2 are small. So very big farmer can say that okay, I will not do the maintenance, but I will access water. So others they cannot do anything.
Yeah, it's about socio-cultural characteristic, yeah. Okay. Any more questions from the other participant? I invite other participants, because in the question and answer in the Q&A, I think almost all have been already addressed by the speaker, including from Yingshan Lau. It's all been also responded. Anyone, Dr. Viswatan, maybe you would like to add some more about groundwater? You emphasize your presentation about groundwater. What's your comment about groundwater issues in Nepal?
India.
Yeah, India.
Yeah, thank you very much. Basically, I agree with the comments made by all, including Professor Shivakoti. I just wanted to emphasize that India has been once promoting groundwater promotion of groundwater extraction by paying subsidies and things like that. Now actually India is reversing the scheme by avoiding payment, no? I mean, in terms of repairing, no? Going towards micro irrigation systems and all. It has become a more of a reparation kind of a thing. Like you are trying to moving from an environmental damaging subsidy regime to environmental friendly management regime, where all farmers who are adopting irrigation, or using water, should move towards micro irrigation system rather than using the canal-based or flood-irrigated irrigation system. So that incentive has a kind of policy has reversed. That's why I just wanted to mention. But again, the social objective of even these micro irrigation systems where water saving technology is being promoted, ultimately whether we are able to save the water for ecosystem services or any other buffer, as a water being a buffer for ecosystem services is a larger question, which is again coming out of this policy. Ultimately, whether this will lead to further problems in the groundwater regime is yet to be found out, is yet to be studied. That's all. Thank you very much.
Okay, Professor. We have here Professor Mubarak Ahmad. I think maybe I would like to invite you also to say something about maybe the changes, the future of common property resource, especially in both water and irrigation. I think you have also experienced about these natural resources. Can I?
Thank you, Pak. I have not done any research on groundwater issues, but I think there are
water or irrigation in general, maybe
I suppose there are some commonalities across common property resources, and it has to do a lot with the way we look at the system. This is a good segue to my session later, because I'm going to talk about the system, the components we talk about, what works and what's not in any natural resource management. I think we can try to systematically look into that and see which part of the system are not working when we talk about common property management or where policy cannot be implemented. So I guess everything in this first session very much becoming the background to what I will be presenting, and I hope that will be useful. But my call is for us all to look at the issues we are facing, and the policy or the management system needs to be developed as a system, because without that we will continue to pamper our own pride of our own science, and then less willing to work together. So this is something that I guess I would like to highlight a little bit more later. But I would agree with all the challenges put here by all the professors, and different contexts give different challenges and give different opportunities for us to work. But again, let's try to specify what are the elements that make things work and what are the elements that make things not working, and then see what can we improve in the system. That's how I would suggest. So I cannot comment specifically on the groundwater resource management. Thank you, Pak.
Okay, terima kasih. Thank you very much, Pak Mubarak. Yeah, Pak Mubarak is our colleague who also sometimes give lecture in our study program here, especially about the resource management from the policy perspective, from the government frameworks and everything. And then, as we heard that he now proposing something about the perspective on the system analysis, Pak Mubarak, Okay. Any more comment or question from the audience? We still have maybe 10 minutes before we have noon prayers. Pak Yonariza?
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, as we know that here in Andalas University, we have been also working on irrigation and water resource management for long. But since the issues of new water laws, where the irrigation water management's been mentioned in the law that should be managed in participatory relationship between farmers and state. That's the new. But what is happening in this patterns of collaboration between farmers and state is not been studied yet. Maybe what's been mentioned by Professor Ganas, we need to look at again what is happening now and what is the future of farmer managed irrigation system in Indonesia, especially how effective that the relationship between farmers and state in managing traditional irrigation system or even something government managed irrigation system or from the traditional structure into permanent structures. Yeah, we still challenge. Maybe Pak Yonariza would like to give also something.
Yeah, thank you, Prof. Rudi. Thank you all the panelists for the very interesting presentation today about natural resources, especially irrigation. Yeah. So Sumatra has been focus of study in irrigation and talking about the interaction among stakeholder, yeah, between local farmer, local government, and also international donor. The challenge is now, to me, have been observing how the international donor working, yeah, toward empowering farmer managed irrigation, and to me, yeah, still very much challenge, yeah, to empower the local irrigator in managing the irrigation. After especially in Indonesia, government strong intervention in irrigation management. So to give back the management authority to the farmer, then challenging is how to be clear with everybody, each party's role, each party's role. So this is what I observe now, and maybe some of you have been also mentioned about that, especially between government and local farmer. Yeah. Today, to me, and I've been discussing in the class also with students, the role of farmer and the role of local government sometimes not so clear yet. Yeah, thank you very much, Pak Rudi.
Thank you very much. Any speaker would like to respond what been comment by Professor Yonariza? Dr. Farhad, yes. Dr. Farhad.
Yes, thank you very much. Actually, not a response to Dr.
Oh, you are unmuted.
Hello. Yeah. Okay, not a response to Dr. Yunariza, but a response to one of the questions which has been recently asked. Is what are the fundamental reason factors behind the successfulness and sustainability of farmer managed irrigation system? It's in the chat. So in the case of Pakistan, in our study which we shared in our presentation, one of the reasons which made community managed or farmer managed irrigation system more sustainable was the possibility of quickly responding to the challenges. For example, if it's a government managed irrigation system and there is a shortage of water, there is no way to change crop water rotation system among the farmers. Okay, but if it is a community managed system, the farmers themselves can quickly decide, okay, if there is less water available within specific period of time, so they can change the number of hours or minutes available to each farmer. So there is inherent flexibility in a farmer managed irrigation system. So this is one of the reasons it was found more successful, and then farmers can come together to maintain the water infrastructure. So farmers, they can get together and they can go for cleaning of the water course or things like that. So they can quickly arrange a meeting and come up with a decision, and then the question of if somebody is not following the rules, then they can be immediately penalized, because it is a very closed system. So everybody, knows each other, so they can come up with all these restrictions on each other. So that makes farmer management system more sustainable in the long run, especially in the case of climate change or any other impending challenges.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Fahad. That the question from Dr. Buddha Toki, yeah? Dr. Buddha Toki, you are still here? Maybe you would like to give some more question or comment? If not, there is some answer from Professor Pampa. You would like to say something in this forum about that question? Or that's enough through
Yes,
the chat?
Farhad has, I think Dr. Farhad has already mentioned some of it. So I think this innate ground level experience, knowledge about immediate issues, which gives them a kind of a grip of the situation, along with, social capital, that is the trust among communities to come together. Because all this farmer managed or community managed irrigation systems are based on, collective action. So there has to be, that community, because of community connect, there is linkage with the what we call a strong element of social capital that exists in these societies. So that gives them an added edge apart from other difficulties that they face. And that also brings us to the question of flexibility, which Dr. Farhad was mentioning. So they are not tight, rigid, standardized. So there is a whole lot of rigidity, flexibility with which they operate. And social capital, community connect, ground level experience, these are the important factors for the success of farmer managed irrigation system, and which needs to be kind of exploited.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much, Professor Pampa, Dr. Farhad, and also question from Dr. Buddha Toki. Yeah? We are now already 12:10. Yeah, we are closing to noon prayer. It's exit already 12 o'clock from the schedule. If there is no one who would like to give some more comment or additional understanding in this forum, no more? Zainora. Zainora, you raise your hand. Do you have something to ask? Or yes. Yeah, still give time for you.
Yes, Doctor, I have actually I have already put my question in the chat. This question may be delivered to any one of the presenters. I would like to know whether, let's say, if you are talking in our context, developed countries, what should be the priority for us to balance the sustainability between we want to have good productions in agriculture, for instance, and also the protections of the environmental resources? To any one of the presenters.
Speaker, yeah. Okay. Speaker. Yeah, I will let any of the presenter would like to respond what's been mentioned by Ms. Janora. Dr. Ram, Professor Ganesh.
Yeah, I'm here.
Dr.
I'm
Ram.
here, but I think I didn't get the question clearly. Can you
repeat
ask again? Just can you repeat, please?
Repeat, Ms. Janora.
Dr. Ram, I also put that in the chat window. If you can refer to that one, or
Chat window.
Yeah, chat window. Because I couldn't get it into the Q&A window.
I tried to find that, but I didn't see that. Maybe.
I also didn't see the in chat. I know, maybe.
In chat, okay. Okay, my question is that, okay, let's say we want to talk in the context of our this Asian context, okay, developed country. So what should be the priority for us to balance between the sustainability, between the productions of the agriculture, for instance, and also the importance of having good protections of environmental resources?
Oh yeah, I got your question. I think this is
it's about the preference.
One of the important dimensions, particularly like concerning the sustainability of the resources. Definitely, we shouldn't go for over exploitation. What we have seen in some part of India, and I think some part of Pakistan also. I think this question I partly answered, but maybe we need more assessment, particularly some kind of like a biophysical scientist to look at the balance between ecological need and economic use of water. Maybe I want to stop here.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah, I
that's
think it's a
the
kind of
analysis, the balance, yeah. Dr.
Yeah.
Farhad, could you raise your hand, maybe, Dr. Farhad?
Yes, I'd like to respond to this actually. It is not about a compromise between these two. We have to, find the right way of doing things. For example, in one of the research, we found out that without compromising on the productivity of cotton production in Pakistan, it is possible to reduce significantly water usage. So some of the farmers in that study area, they were excessively using water. So we could reduce that water usage while at the same time maintaining the productivity. So we don't have to compromise on that. Similarly, in many other systems, there are leakages in the production system. So we have to prevent those leakages and maintain the productivity. And also there is a possibility of that in many agricultural systems we are ignoring other services which it is providing. Environmental services. For example, reducing pollution and all that. So we have to include those environmental services as well, and then we'll see that the real value it is providing, maybe that is already better than its competitor.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Farhad. Dr. Mubarak, you raise your hand, maybe you would like to say something from system perspective, because in about the balance between sustainability, productivity, and others. Yeah.
Well, I suppose I just want to remind us all that we talk about governance, right?
Yeah.
But we scientists sometimes like to absorb that question. It is as if it is our task. So I suppose the question about what should be good for a society, it should be determined in the context of who should be determined what is right for whom, and what is the scientist's role. I suppose this is just a generic rather, but I suppose we all know that our task is only to provide the framework to assess consequences of the choices, not the answer to question what should be. That's my perspective on it.
Okay, it's considered.
Can I please?
Okay, Dr. Pampa, yes.
A second. I think I agree with Dr. Mubarak, I could not agree more. No, I was saying I'd like to add, if it is a scientist question, it's a governance question, it is, I think more importantly for countries, a policy question, and there is a lot of politics also embedded in it. One quick example, say for example, in the case of India, the India Punjab, Punjab is there in Pakistan, Punjab is there in India, right? Now, what rationality is there? Punjab is located in a hot, arid, tropical region, and hot arid region, northwest part of India. It is absolutely dry to grow paddy, to grow rice, where you do not have adequate rainfall. And then most of the groundwater extraction in Punjab is due to of paddy cultivation, okay, because of rice cultivation. So and that is the reason that we have one. Government at one time encouraged paddy cultivation. Now it is doing, oh gosh, now it has become a dark zone. So it is also a policy question. Who decides what for whom, at what juncture? So it's more policy and more a kind of a political question, between how to balance. Scientists can map it out, and what to take and what not to take is a question of, apart from other things, a question of policy.
Okay.
Political
okay, thank you. Oh.
Okay, can I
Professor Viswanathan,
yeah. So I agree with all who have commented on this question. More than that, I also wish to state that we already have a framework here, almost ready to use in a kind of a field conditions, isn't it? So maybe we can explore further studies, I mean more studies looking at the dynamics happening in the Asian context, where we can use this framework, and also mostly from a multidisciplinary perspective involving scientists also to understand the changes happening, and also many things are also changing with respect to policies, climate resilience and all those things. So we need a kind of a holistic understanding, and where we can use this framework and try to come out with more meaningful kind of conclusions, at least in another 5 years time. That's what I think, which is very important. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much for all, yeah, for speakers, for participants. We reached the time, yeah, 12:17. We reached the time already. And I think I don't want to give too much conclusion for this session, yeah. For my side itself, I've already left these issues about irrigation and water for long, yeah. The last studied for me myself is 2006 about water and irrigation in West Sumatra. I left the issues of water for long. So I goes to for climate issues, gender issues, and other kind of issues of water. But now I really got something. After the new law in Indonesia, there is some more question now about governance. The challenges are different now. The climate is new challenge. Yeah, the water shortage, the variability, has been mentioned by others, is also is happening here in Indonesia. And we will try to look at new pattern, new perspective to see what happened in Indonesia as well. So I do hope that it also can reach understanding and rich knowledge for all participants who already attend this session. Let's us together give applause to all presenters. Yeah, thank you very much. And apologize if there is something not in place when I chair this session. Yeah, I'll give a hand to the host, Bu Yorlita. Thank you very much again. See you.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Rudy, and thank you for all the speakers. We have like a very intense discussion on this topic and many interesting questions also from the participants. However, we are a bit left behind the schedule, and I think it's very late for Professor Ganes over there. I will not give some more comments on this. I would just to remind our participants that we will have another plenary session after the break. We started at 1:30. Plenary on natural resources and environmental management, and then sustainable energy development, and also plenary on sustainable housing and settlement. So hope that everyone can join the session based on their interest after this, and the link for the meeting is attached to the schedule that have been circulated among the participants, also the members. Okay, again, thank you for our very various presenters in this session, and also for the Professor Ganes to arrange this, to help me arrange this meeting. Hope we can see in other session. Okay, I close the session.
Hope to see you in Andalas sometimes if COVID pass. Thank you, Professor Ganes. We miss you, Professor Ganes.
Thank you. I miss you too. I'll surely make the plan.
It's too late for you, right? Sorry for that. Yes. Okay. Good night, Professor.
Thank you. Thank you. I missed one film, that's all. No problem.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we left.
Bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, before we go on to the next plenary session, we will have an hour to break. Thank you very much, and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.